Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the 7th episode of story in which the 4th Shinobi World War was over, and Naruto was finally captured by Madara. But is hope truly gone? And what the heck is happening to the Ghetto Mazo? Join our favorite blonde hero and the nine-tailed beasts on their great journey to the past. Let's see how Naruto deals with this. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this show going. Naruto's body crashed right through a tree with a sickening crack. Ow. Ow was definitely an understatement. He hadn't been damaged quite badly, but being punched through a tree by an arm made of sand definitely hurt. It felt just like when the real Shukaku punched him in the face. PFFF, he heard Shukaku snorting in his head. My punch was much harder than that. His relentless assault with hundreds of shadow clones couldn't even get past Gaara's defense. Whenever he and his clones approached Gaara, the redhead would just swat them away either with the monstrous strength of Shukaku, or with a wide, quick blast of wind. Naruto, taijutsu won't do anything against him. Try some ninjutsu. Kokuo urged him. I know. But what to use? From afar, Gaara growled. Why do you try so hard? You're weak. Why struggling meaninglessly? Why won't you just die? On his sand arms, the shape of a lot of shurikens started forming. Naruto understood immediately what was going to happen. Blocking will just slow down his momentum. He will have to match the attack with his own attack. The gears in his mind immediately came to life full speed. The image of a kunai with all of the necessary details appeared in his head, the sharp diamond-shaped tip, the handle wrapped in cloth with a ring at the end, the black steel material, the way Tenten's father smashed his hammer on the red steel to shape the appearance of the ninja knife, the skills of all the shinobi who wielded this particular weapon. Sand Shuriken. Multiplied by 100. Creation, weapon projection jutsu. A barrage of kunai formed around Naruto and launched themselves towards Gaara just as a barrage of shuriken made of sand shot her from Gaara's arms. The two storms of weapons met in mid-air, steel clashed with sand. The air was suddenly full of loud clanging noises. Alright. Finally got that jutsu down. Not perfect, you mean? True. The kunai created by Naruto's chakra were now all popping into smoke after stopping the barrage of sand shuriken coming from Gaara. You don't need to say it like that. Naruto pouted. Well, I was really surprised when the old man could pull that jutsu out with only one try, you know, Isabu noted. I didn't think he had the structure of the weapon so perfectly, or had the chakra density to create them like that. During the training month, Naruto had once shown Hiruzen the jutsu. While he was complaining loudly about how hard it was to create the weapons perfectly from only chakra, the old man just pondered and thought, and after about 5 minutes of thinking, he suddenly smiled, and made some hand signs. After a puff of smoke, a perfect shuriken appeared on his hand, sharp and sturdy as if it was a real shuriken made from real steel, not from chakra, before the gaping mouth of Naruto and the amusing face of Jiraiya. Well, to be fair, he had been working with a shuriken for decades before Naruto was even born, Kokuo said wisely. So it's no wonder why he knew the shuriken so thoroughly, just like the back of his hand. Watch out. Looking up, Naruto saw Gaara descending on his head with his left clawed arm lunging at him. This time, the redhead was the one who initiated combat first. Not even stopping to think, Naruto reacted instinctively. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 clones appeared in front of the real Naruto and took the blunt force of the punch. They exploded violently, sending Gaara flying, and from within the smokescreen, the real Naruto emerged. On his hand, there was a piece of paper with sealing formulae written on it. What is this? Naruto stared at the piece of paper on Jiraiya's hand. The Toad Sage chuckled. It's a seal designed to suppress the power of tailed beasts within a Jinchuriki. I originally created it to help you control the Kyuubi in case you one day needed it. But I think you won't need it anymore, right? So why don't you keep it? Jiraiya shook his head. I'm giving this to you to use against Gaara when you two clash later. If what I heard about Gaara was true, he was a psychopath. And there is no way to stop him if he unleashes the full power of Shukaku on the village. But I believe you won't like to fight him if you can, will you? So what you need to do is to get close to him and stick this to his forehead when Shukaku's chakra goes out of control. The pervert is right, Naruto heard Yuki inside his head. The structure that seal is based on is an advanced structure which is usually used to suppress a very large and powerful amount of chakra. It basically blocks the movement of chakra in a person's body when applied, making the applicant unable to access the chakra of us inside them anymore, at least for a short time, enough for him to calm down. It is pretty useless if used directly against us, but through the Jinchuriki. It is a completely different story. He is good, I admit. Naruto looked at the seal on Jiraiya's hand worriedly for a while. Then, he reached out his hand and took it. Thanks, pervy sage. You and the old man, be careful against Orochimaru, too. You don't have to remind me about that. The sage answered him with a confident smirk. Because you're like me, Gaara. I understand all your pain, being treated as a monster. So I will do anything to save you from the darkness. I am your friend. Naruto's hand lashed out at Gaara's forehead. Just another step. On your left, Naruto. Huh? He immediately raised his arm to block, but couldn't stop another giant heavy arm made of sand, Gaara's right arm, from striking him at the ribs on the left side of his body and throwing him away before he could touch the other Jinchuriki. Naruto was once again sent flying like a ragdoll, but thankfully, no bone was broken. Naruto groaned and crawled up. It freaking hurt. Not only in the body, but in his heart also. Now I finally understand what old man Hashirama felt when he had to face Madara in battle. To apply the seal on Gaara's forehead, he needed to move closer to him, enough for his hand to reach Gaara's head. But if he wants to do that, he must move faster than Gaara or his sand could react. Naruto, use our chakra now. It's your only chance against Gaara right now. Ugh. I had hoped we wouldn't need to resort to this. Tailed Beast Chakra Cloak was, right now, the ultimate trump card Naruto had in his arsenal. With the chakra the beasts inside him granted him, every aspect of Naruto's body was enhanced massively, from the muscle strength, chakra, power and jutsu to even his senses. Not as destructive as when he was in his full Tailed Beast mode, when he could spam Tailed Beast bombs like crazy of course, but this was more than enough. He was incredibly powerful already when he was in this state. But unfortunately for Naruto, the greatest problem lies exactly there. With the absurd amount of power this mode gave him, he had no way to tone it down. Even a normal Rasengan created in this mode could easily blast Gaara to shred even when he was in his half-transformation. That's the reason why Naruto didn't enter this state right when their fight started. He feared that he could accidentally kill Gaara with a stray Rasengan or something. He still remembered the time when he was sparring with Jiraiya. Holy shit. Those were the only words Jiraiya could say before the sight of destruction in front of him. Apparently, Naruto's buffed with Tailed Beast Chakra Rasengan had just blown a boulder the size of a house to smithereen. Yes, a normal Rasengan. Well, it's just that powerful, Naruto shrugged. I just cannot control the destructive power when it is unleashed, so. Naruto, the perverted sage turned to the blonde, his left eye twitched. Never use this chakra cloak thing during a capture alive mission, understand? Naruto gulped. So, mowing down everything with maximum destructive power? Piece of cake. Beating someone to a pulp, while keeping him alive and healthy? That's a completely different story. And there was another limit, he couldn't stay in this mode longer than 3 minutes, with the body of a kid he was having now. But there's no time to hesitate now. For his plan to work, he needed speed, and the cloak was the only thing which could give him what he needed now. Naruto nodded, and immediately, the incredibly potent chakra of the tailed beasts rushed into Naruto's chakra network. With an explosion of energy, his chakra cloak started forming. Naruto's chakra cloak also got a drastic change in appearance. His whole body was clad in long-sleeved black body armor with golden symbols of the seal engraved into it. The golden overcoat was still there, but now, it was sleeveless with shoulder pads and was held together by a strap at the waist, making it look more like a half-cape with 9 splitting tails at the end. An aura of golden energy covered his whole body from his heels to the tip of his spiky hair. If there was anything to say about it, it's just Naruto looked even more badass than he was before. Well, had he not been still a midget, anyway. With his newly acquired speed, Naruto dashed at Gaara. The Shukaku Jinchuriki growled, and thrust his arms forward. Hands made of sand burst out from the ground and launched themselves at the blonde Konoha Shinobi like missiles. But Naruto's speed, together with his enhanced senses and reflex, allowed him to dodge all the sand missiles easily. Only a few steps more. Maybe he wouldn't have to resort to fighting after all. His legs moved faster. His hand lashed out, the seal was ready to be applied on Gaara's forehead. Then he felt his face colliding with something hard. A high and long wall made of rock, sand and some kinds of very hard ore suddenly erected from the ground, right at the place he was aiming at. However fast and good reflex you are, if there is a wall suddenly appearing in your running path, and you're charging full speed at it, the natural result is that you will smash your face into it. Kakashi had learned this the hard way when he first invented his Chidori. Well, maybe not if you have the power of supernatural magical eyes, but screw Newton and his laws of physics. Naruto's collision with the wall caused a sickeningly loud boom, and a human-shaped crater appeared on the wall. But the sudden halt didn't slow the blonde Jinchuriki down. Naruto rushed into the wall again, this time on purpose. On his hand, his other signature jutsu, the Rasengan, started forming. With a loud battle cry, the spiraling sphere collided with a large wall, and this time, he managed to plow right through it. The sand shield immediately erected itself around Gaara, blocking him from view, and Naruto's fist crashed against it. Hey! But Naruto's speed right now was at least equal to Lee's with 5 gates opened. In a flash, the blonde disappeared from Gaara's view, and before the Sand Jinchuriki could even realize, his face ate a very nasty punch from Naruto, who had just snuck through the protective barrier with sheer speed. Then Gaara collapsed into a pile of sand. What? To your right, Naruto. Naruto turned his head, and he paled when he saw what was going to happen. Gaara, a few steps away, in his half-transformed state, was kneeling on the ground with his head raised high. In front of his mouth, a black sphere the size of a basketball had formed. Tailed Beast Bomb. He was preparing to fire a freaking Tailed Beast Bomb. Having faced them, and even used them many times before, Naruto knew like the back of his hand how powerful and destructive a Tailed Beast Bomb is. That time when he went four-tailed and used a smaller Tailed Beast Bomb than this one, he utterly obliterated 3 Rashomon gates Orochimaru summoned and made a gigantic crater on the ground. Another time, he blasted the freaking pain, protected by his Shinra Tensei, off to the sky when he was in 6-tailed state. Tailed Beast Bombs, unless you have Hack's dimensional phasing power like Obito, or the ability to teleport them to another place like Minato, are unavoidable. And even if somehow Naruto managed to avoid it, the angle Gaara was aiming at meant he would take down at least a quarter of Konoha, which was 2 miles behind Naruto's back. And there is no time to stop Gaara from firing the deadly ball anyway. He will have to. Kurama. I know. Naruto opened his right hand. Immediately, chakra started spinning in his palm, taking the form of his prized Rasengan. 2 more hands made of chakra sprouted from his wrist and wove around the sphere, and in just 2 seconds, his signature Rasen Shuriken was formed. The air whipped around him, and the clearing was suddenly filled with loud screeching noises. The chakra shuriken left Naruto's hand right as the deadly black sphere shot out from Gaara's mouth. The 2 projectile attacks flew towards each other, and when everyone expected a nasty collision and an earth-shaking explosion, the ball soared over the shuriken. Now. Right then, the shuriken detonated. From under the tailed beast bomb, air suddenly exploded into a wrathful tornado, and the black ball of chakra was shot upward by the pressure of the whirlwind. The tailed beast bomb rocketed into the blue sky. 20 meters. 50. 60. Then the forest shook with a loud explosion in the sky. A huge shockwave washed across the clearing, and would have swept Naruto off his feet had he not been ready. Alright. Naruto, around you. Naruto heard the warning, but it was too late. From every direction around him, a large amount of sand burst out from the ground, and immediately closed in around him as if he was a living magnet. The tailed beast bomb was just a distraction. What Gaara was really aiming for was this, trapping him inside his cocoon of sand and crush him with his sand burial. How could Shukaku be such a good tactician, by the way? Hey! In just a second, Naruto was completely locked inside a very thick and very heavy pyramid of sand, unable to even move a muscle. Naruto cursed when the sand started constricting around his body. If he doesn't do anything soon, he will be crushed to a pulp for sure. No choice then. Naruto quickly gathered all the chakra in his golden cloak. With a loud yell, the chakra exploded, taking down the sand prison holding him with a loud bang. He escaped death barely, but his tailed beast cloak also dissipated as a result. Then suddenly, Gaara's sand arms extended from afar and slammed into Naruto's body with the speed of 2 rockets. Naruto was pushed into the tree trunk, oxygen was taken out of his lungs when the 2 clawed hands grabbed him and squeezed hard. Ugh. If it was only sand, Shukaku's power might have been able to help him get out. But this arm was a construct made from both sand and a very large and dense amount of chakra from the other Shukaku, and controlled actively by Gaara's mind. Naruto's Shukaku couldn't dispel it. Die, Uzumaki, Gaara shouted in glee, squeezing his 2 hands up harder and crushed the blonde Jinchuriki in a loud plop. Chidori. Or at least, that's what would have happened had Sasuke arrived just 2 seconds later. Gaara screamed when the lightning-charged hand of Sasuke tore through his 2 sand arms and cut them off his body. Suddenly being cut off from Gaara's control, the 2 grotesque hands flinched midair and collapsed into sand again, freeing Naruto. Sasuke spun on midair and delivered a rolling kick on Gaara's face. The red-haired Jinchuriki's body plunged to the ground and connected with the dirt in a loud thud. "I knew you wouldn't be able to do it without my help." The Uchiha turned to Naruto with his trademark smirk on his face. Naruto smiled. Despite being annoyed by Sasuke's arrogant antic, he was still glad for his big damned hero moment. "I hate to say this, but thank you for being on time." Blood. The two turned back to Gaara, whose body was twitching wildly. The two sand arms were separated from his body, revealing his two bloody normal arms below. Blood. My. Blood. Ag. My blow oh crap, muttered Naruto. In front of them, Gaara's body started morphing again. Sand once again crawled up his bleeding arms and his body, healing them and melding them into even more grotesque Shukaku-like shapes. And the worst thing is, a tail-like appendage had sprouted out of his tailbone. Being a Jinchuriki himself, Naruto knew what would happen when a transformation started to advance to the tail state. It's just a little bit more before he turned completely into Shukaku. Shit, we'll have to stop him before he goes into full-tailed beast mode, or else. That is Shukaku? Sasuke stared at the creature in front of them. Wow, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Release me, you guys. Release me. I'll flay that Uchiha alive. Shukaku screamed hysterically inside Naruto's mind while the other tailed beasts had to try their best to hold the Tanuki back from taking over Naruto's body and blasting Sasuke to bits. The Shukaku-fied Gaara raised his arms, and Naruto's eyes widened when he realized what was going to happen. Shit. Jump. Sasuke, however, hadn't even waited for the command. His Sharingan allowed him to see the existence of chakra in a human's body, and such an absurd amount of chakra exploding around Gaara right now must not be a good sign at all. He had already leapt into the air before Gaara slammed his hands downward. The ground exploded. Tendrils of sand shot out everywhere from below the surface, skewering through the trees standing on their way like they were made of paper. Naruto and Sasuke had to jump around frantically while trying to prevent the deadly spears from turning them into Swiss cheese. Or anything similar their world has. Naruto, do something. Sasuke screamed hysterically while trying to cut a sand spike off with his sword. What? Why me? Naruto screamed back while zigzagging around the field, dodging multiple tendrils trying to pierce him from below in the process. I don't know, because you have a big-ass fox in your belly? Do something. Shukaku? I changed my mind, let's kill that Uchiha. Not you too? This is not the time. A stray pebble hit Sasuke's hand, knocking his sword away. Some tendrils of sand pierced through the blade, shattering it in the process. Oh come on. Not again. Okay Naruto, think. How did you defeat Gaara the first time? If you ever think of doing that again Naruto, I'll murder you by these two hands. Madara and everything be damned, Shukaku growled menacingly in his head, and Naruto shuddered. Shukaku, despite the fact that it had been a long time, was still sore about that incident whenever someone reminded her about it, accidental or on purpose. Well, a girl definitely won't react nicely if you suddenly poke her in the butt, you know. Especially with a kunai that explodes. Naruto, flood the field with a powerful water jutsu. It will slow the movement of the sand down. Isabu said, and Naruto immediately understood. He flipped through some hand seals for a jutsu Jiraiya had just taught you during his training month. Luckily, this was the forest, so there was a lot of groundwater underground. Water style, spring burst. The ground rumbled, and water erupted from every crack on the surface, soaking the whole battlefield in an instant. The basic concept of this jutsu was using water element chakra to stimulate the activity of the groundwater veins underground to pull them onto the surface, making a small puddle of clean water for the user to consume. It was created by Jiraiya with the purpose of making a temporary water source in case there wasn't any closeby. But give it to Naruto, with his mediocre chakra control and incredible reserve of chakra. Well, let's just say a spring is an extreme understatement. Well, that's not what I expected, but it's effective. Isabu sweat dropped. Spring? This is a freaking lake, Sasuke exclaimed while landing on the water surface. Well, sorry for having a lot of chakra without enough control. Naruto retorted. The powerful explosion of water also had a good effect of blasting Gaara to the air. The sand-covered Jinchuriki plunged down from 20 feet above and collided with the water surface in a very loud splash. With a loud roar, he burst out of the water, only to see two Naruto charging at him, holding a huge blue swirling ball of chakra. Sorry Gaara, but you have to stop now. The two orbs of chakra descended on Gaara, and his eyes gleamed madly. Wind style, sandstorm, devastation. The deadly sand burst erupted from Gaara's mouth like a cannon blast, blowing the two Naruto away before they could deliver their attacks. The two blondes crashed into the water, the two Rasengan on their hands dispersed violently, sending water everywhere. Gaara followed the two crashing blondes with a satisfied grin and crouched down, ready to leap after them for the killing blow. Then he was shocked. Literally. Lightning danced across the water surface from Sasuke's palm, which was now submerged in the water, and ran through Gaara's body with a violent force. The Tsunade Jinchuriki screamed out in pain, his body went numb with each arc of lightning piercing his body. Even the protective sand armor around him couldn't protect him from the electricity channeled through the very conductive water he was standing on. Naruto! Now! Sasuke screamed out, and Naruto, cloaked again in his golden chakra cloak, shot forward in a yellow flash. The lightning chakra from Sasuke's shocking web jutsu was dancing across his body too, but the cloak had protected him from the worst effect of the jutsu. His hand lashed out and the seal was slapped on Gaara's forehead. The red-haired Jinchuriki's body immediately cringed up. He could feel Chukaku's chakra retreating from his network, and the sand appendages falling from his body part by part. No. I was just so close. I can't be stopped like this. No. No. Those were the last words Shukaku could scream out before Gaara's body slumped down, consciousness leaving him. The redhead collapsed forward, right into Naruto's wide-opening arms which caught him. Finally, it's over, the blonde breathed out. Right at that time, Kankuro and Temari landed near them. Get away from my brother! Temari screamed, brandishing her fan, ready to blast both Naruto and Sasuke with her wind scythe jutsu. Naruto just raised an eyebrow. Dude, we have just beaten your Jinchuriki brother. And now, you are trying to threaten us? Temari cringed. Even though there was no hostility in Naruto's voice, she could still feel the threat coming from those words. Well, even if I have to die here, I'm not going to allow you to wait, Ne-chan. Kankuro jumped in hastily. Konoha Shinobi, we're sorry for what our brother had done, but we are here in peace. We're not going to fight you. Please, just return our brother to us and we'll leave. Sorry, but that's impossible for now, said Naruto calmly. Your brother tried to pick a fight with us outside of the Chunin exam, and as a representative of Sunagakuer, this is an action which might lead to war between the two villages. Therefore, returning him to you or not is not within our authority. We will need to consult the Hokage before making the final decision. Now, if you're ready, we're going back to the village. You can come with us if you want. Temari and Kankuro winced, but they knew they had been defeated. Meanwhile, Sasuke stared at Naruto as if the blonde had just grown another head. Okay, it's final, you're not Naruto. Naruto cannot say those words you have just spouted out. Where is the real Naruto? Naruto pouted. I hate you, Sasuke. Mentally, he gave Kokuo a thumbs up. Kokuo, that speech was awesome. Told you, the horse answered with a smirk. Okay, let's go. With those words, Naruto departed with Gaara on his shoulder, and the two Tsunade Jinchuriki followed him quietly without a word. Sasuke also followed, but not before he took a glance back at the battlefield, at the huge lake made from Naruto's jutsu. Naruto. Just how strong have you become? Juugo landed on the ground with a loud thud. Where are you? Come out here so I can kill you. Actually, he didn't even need to ask. Nature chakra allowed him to feel the presence of others without being a censor himself. So it was not hard for him to find out about the children who were hiding behind a small house at the side of the street. He grinned madly, his right hand twisted into some kind of strange cannon with 6 small barrels circling another bigger one. Chakra started gathering inside the barrels. A simple blast of it is more than enough to vaporize the enemies and the area around them. Then suddenly, Shikamaru emerged from behind the house and launched a handful of shuriken at Juugo. The deadly weapons soared through the air, but they didn't even faze the man a little bit. He swung his morphed arm, knocking away all the throwing stars in one swipe, while laughing crazily. Spiked human bullet tank. Then suddenly, a spinning human boulder descended down Juugo's head from nowhere. The 69 kg of Choji's weight, multiplied by the expansion jutsu, together with the kunai poking out from every part of his body, made the deadly jutsu even deadlier. The menacing ball of flesh slammed down hard on Juugo, and for a split second the monstrous man seemed to be crushed, but then a loud growl came, and the technique stopped dead on its track and was gradually pushed back by the man who was supposed to be smashed to paste under it. There wasn't any sign of injury, he was still laughing. But that was just the first part of Shikamaru's plan. His shadow, connected with Choji's, immediately lashed out upon the chubby boy's contact with Juugo and latched onto the monstrous man's shadow. Juugo cringed, His movement faltered for a moment, and that's all Shikamaru needed. Kiba, now. On it. Fang over fang. At the command, Kiba and Akamaru rushed in like too many tornadoes, charging at Juugo in his prized clan jutsu. With both his hands busy holding Choji's back, there was no way for him to block the incoming human drills coming from both of his sides and slamming into him with the force of 2 torpedoes. Loud crashing noises echoed through the air, and the ground was covered in a big cloud of dust. Or at least, that's what he hoped. But he could not expect to lower his guard now. Neji, your turn. From behind Juugo, the Hyuga prodigy charged. With the Byakugan activated, he could see clearly their enemy within the cloud of dust, a bright body which seemed to be made purely of chakra. He rushed in, his hands glowing with chakra, and started launching palms after palms at Juugo, who was too busy with the 3 direct assaults to notice him slipping towards him from behind. Shino. All of Shino's hive rushed in at once towards the site of collision. This is a matter of life and death, there is no time to be stingy. They latched onto Juugo's body and started draining every bit of chakra they could from him. For a few seconds, there was no sound except for the wheezing and grinding noises coming from Kiba, Akamaru, and Choji. Shikamaru held his breath. Did they do it? The dust cleared, giving him the answer immediately. Guess not. Juugo was still standing. His 2 hands were still holding Choji in place. Or more exactly, his 2 original hands. 2 more arms, made of the same black substance covering his body, had sprouted from his shoulders, and were now blocking the advance of the 2 drills which were Kiba and Akamaru. Shino's insects fell down from Juugo's body one by one, and the Aburame cringed when he saw what happened to them. They were all petrified. And Neji had to stumble back in fear and pain when he saw both his hands burnt quite badly from touching the body of the man. Juugo let out a small chuckle. Then he did something unexpected and started walking, pushing Choji back in process. Shikamaru was horrified when he felt his body started moving, closer to where Juugo was. What the? How is it possible? Mind transfer jutsu. What? Ino, no. Shikamaru's scream arrived a second too late, because Ino's soul had already left her body, and with a whoosh, it soared through the air, and flew into Juugo's body. Ino's real body slumped down to the ground. For a while, there was no sound in the air, except for the grinding sounds coming from Choji, Kiba, and Akamaru. Then suddenly, her eyes snapped open, and she let out a terrified scream. At the same time, Juugo cackled, and his 4 arms threw Choji, Akamaru and Kiba away like 4 mere ragdolls. Despite his buffed weight and mass, Choji found himself flying through the air as if he was just made from cotton. Luckily, he managed to turn back to normal before slamming into Shino, who was on his way, so the Aburame boy wasn't flattened under his weight. Ino curled up into a ball on the ground, shivering like crazy. Shikamaru hastily released his jutsu and grabbed her, but in just a blink of an eye, Juugo was towering over him with his right arm morphed into a cannon barrel. So I'm going to die here. What a drag. He closed his eyes, waiting for the blow to fall. Leaf Extreme Hurricane. A blur of green rammed into Juugo's body and smashed him away. The mutated man flew over Neji's head, and knocked down another building when his body plunged hard into it with a series of boom, crack and smash. With a thud, Guy landed in front of the sprawling children. Fear not. The mighty green beast of Konohagakure is here for your assistance. Oh? Then who is the one who made them need assistance at the first place? Kurenai landed next to him, growling. That mutation, Kakashi thought, there is no mistake. This man is a member of that clan. But somehow. Do you know him, Kakashi? The Cyclops Jonin shook his head, his eyes didn't leave the man who was crawling out of the rubble. I don't. But I've faced someone with this ability before, during the Third War. That man was incredibly powerful. Minato-sensei managed to kill him in no time, but from what sensei told me, he was a member of the Ryudu clan, the ones with a special Kekkei Genkai which allowed them to absorb chakra from the environment. What Kakashi had just said sent shiver down all the Jonin's backs. They all knew that not everyone could utilize nature chakra. Nature chakra is much stronger than chakra in a human body. Only the strongest people who were trained in sage arts could harness that incredible power. And if that man was a member of the clan which specialized in using that chakra. Kurenai, Asuma, you two bring the Jonin out of here. I and Guy will deal with him. Normally, Kurenai would object. But in a situation like this, she knew what she had to do, and what she should do. She nodded, and jumped towards the Jonin, Asuma behind her. We can. Still. Fight. Kiba grunted, pushing himself up. Kurenai stopped him. I know you can, but not here. There are other places which need us more. Just leave this place to Kakashi and Guy, they can handle it. From afar, Juugo had managed to shrug all the debris off his body. With a loud roar like an injured beast, he leapt at the Konoha shinobi again, his fist cocked back, ready to deliver a smash of vengeance. But the movement didn't escape the Jonin's eyes. Third gate, Gate of Life. Open. Guy was the first person to react. Chakra exploded from his body, and before anyone else could even move a muscle, he had appeared in the way Juugo was moving and intercepted the mutated man with a nasty kick to the chest. Juugo was knocked away once more, but before he could even touch the ground, the taijutsu master had appeared next to him again and drilled him into the surface of the earth with a punch so powerful it made a human-sized crater in the asphalt. The bushy-brow taijutsu master skidded on the ground, facing the human-shaped hole on the ground warily. And his premonition didn't fail him when Juugo broke out of the asphalt growling madly, bruises covering his body. Still has power to fight? He grinned. Then it's time for me to show you the full power of my youth. He cracked his knuckles, ready to open another gates. Heads turned towards Ino, who had just bolted up from all her shivering and trembling. Ino? Ino, are you alright? Asuma slapped her slightly on her cheek. It's horrible. The Yamanaka heiress shuddered. When I used the mind transfer jutsu on him, I saw something very strange. There are two of him. In his head. But one of them. He was chained and gagged behind. While the other. He looked just like him over there. And when he saw me, he immediately rushed in. He nearly killed my soul in there. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. Personality disorder? But the other one. When he saw me, Ino continued. His eyes had been lifeless and full of despair. But when he saw me, he started struggling. And the evil one cringed a bit. That's how I was able to get away. So he's like having some monster inside his body, and cannot control it, and it took control of his body? Choji pondered. Why yeah. That's what I think. But alright, enough talking. Kakashi's voice cut the two children short. Kurenai, Asuma, Janan, go now. The aforementioned people looked at each other in worry, then nodded and jumped away, leaving Kakashi and Guy to deal with the enemy. Kakashi pulled up his Hitai-8, revealing his Sharingan. Guy, change of plan, we will capture him alive. Zaku Abumi was scared. Otogaku or Shinobi aren't scared of anything. All those years of training under Orochimaru had beaten fear out of their systems. But right now, he could be very sure the sensation he was feeling in his chest was nothing but fear. Well, who wouldn't, considering the fact that he was tied up by meters of ninja wire and hovering above him was hundreds of sharp, pointy weapons ready to rain down on his head. Looking away, he saw Dosu, who was in no better condition than him. You're such a youthful opponent, Oto Shinobi-san. He heard his teammate's opponent saying. But you had tried to harm my comrades, and I, the beautiful green beast of Konoha, cannot tolerate such actions. Because of that, it's time for me to unleash all my power. The green brat took out the weights on his legs, and both the Oto Shinobi shuddered when the two set of weights reached the ground and made two loud explosions. And Dosu got pummeled to the ground from every direction. Stop right there if you don't want the bitch to die. Lee's fist stopped dead right before he could land another blow to Dosu's exposed bloody head. Tenten's hands froze in place as she was about to skewer Zaku with her weapons. Everyone's eyes turned to Kin, who was holding a kunai to Sakura's throat. Wait, Lee hastily retreated, and ready to jump towards Kin to rescue his comrade. Don't. I said. Don't. Move, the Oto Kunoichi snarled, pressing the knife into Sakura's throat. Beads of blood could be seen appearing on the pearly skin of the girl. No. Don't do it, please. Lee screamed out desperately. We will do as you told. Just, please. ARGH. The fist clad in the sound-generating device of Dosu slammed into Lee's stomach, and suddenly the boy felt excruciating pain, as if his body was going to explode. He gasped out and collapsed to the ground, clutching his stomach. You coward. Lee. Tenten screamed. She turned her eyes away from Zaku for 2 seconds, and that was enough to cost her the whole battle. With a loud whoosh, all the wire tying Zaku up snapped apart, and before the weapon mistress could even do anything, the Otojanan had aimed both his hands at her with a maniacal grin. Slicing sound wave. Tenten was blasted into a tree trunk by the extremely compressed burst of air. She collapsed to the ground, unconscious. All of her weapons also fell down to the ground one by one. How dare you? Using her as hostage. Lee gritted out in fury, but Dosu stomped his foot on his head, pushing him to the ground, immobilizing him at the same time. "That hurt, bastard," the mommy shinobi growled out. He turned back to Kin. "Kill the bitch. I want to see him suffer seeing his precious blossom die." With pleasure, the kunoichi smiled sadistically. Her arm holding the kunai raised high, and the deadly knife came down on Sakura's throat. And her hand was stopped dead on its way by another hand. "What are you doing to my daughter?" Clang 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 clang. Hayate and Genma disengaged from their adversary after a brutal dance of their blades. The army of mutated monsters couldn't get past the main gate of Konohagakure. They were held in place by the shinobi of Konoha, Ibiki Morino, the head of the torture and interrogation division, who had just incapacitated 5 enemies at once with his secret torturing technique, Tsume Inuzuka and her clansmen from the Inuzuka clan, who ripped apart the rank of the army with their signature Fang Jutsu, Yuga Uzuki, together with her Anbu team, cutting down experiments after experiments, before a cage of wood rose from the ground, locking a bunch of enemies inside. The problem was the enemy the two were facing. This man. He alone would be enough to compensate for the whole army of experiments the others were facing. Different from the other experiments, he was a true ninja. He was definitely trained well to become a weapon. His skills far exceeded ones of other shinobi. Facing both Hayate and Genma at the same time, he still fought on par with them, and sometimes he even managed to push them back. His weapons, made of his one bones, were just as strong and sturdy as weapons made of genuine steel. "Shikatsu Myaku." Genma growled. He had realized who the enemy in front of him was. Possessing this Kekkei Genkai. "You must be the sole survivor of the Kaguya clan, the only person who was gifted this power. Kimimaro Kaguya. Correct?" The man, now known as Kimimaro, calmly swatted Genma's machete away with one of his bone swords. "I bear that name, indeed." Dance of the large. All over his arms and body, bones sprouted out. They blocked the strikes coming from Genma and Hayate, and as their weapons were locked in place, he spun. The katana and machete were ripped from their respective wielders' hands. They flew away and impaled the earth with 2 thuds, the blades buried deep into the ground. At the same time, the sharp bones in his body swept across the 2 disarmed shinobi, leaving deep gashes on their flak jackets, their arms and their thighs. Kimimaro rushed in like a storm, his bone swords raised high, ready for the final blow. Fire style. Burning ash. Genma screamed out desperately, spitting a cloud of gunpowder at the advancing Kaguya. Suddenly assaulted by hot black powder to the face, Kimimaro stopped dead on his track, and was immediately engulfed in a blazing fireball when Genma pulled out a lighter from his pocket and ignited it. Did it work? Dance of the Clematis. The flame was swept away with a loud whoosh. The bone swords on Kimimaro's hands were now replaced by a long spear-like weapon, which seemed to be made from, disturbingly, a human spine, with smaller bones lining along its length like spikes. Crusts of bones were falling from his body. The Kaguya had covered himself with a layer of bone like an armor to negate the damage. A lance, huh? Then Kimimaro swung his weapon. The Konoha elite guard was caught completely off guard when the spine stretched out like a snake and wrapped around him. What? How is this possible? Genma's eyes widened. Those sharp thorns of bone aren't there just for show. When he was completely tied up by the spine, they would impale themselves into his body and kill him from the inside out. The match is becoming more and more one-sided. If he doesn't do anything. Everything happened in 5 seconds. Genma kicked the ground and leapt up, right before the whip spear could close up against him, then threw a handful of shuriken at Kimimaro. The Kaguya followed his movement on the air idly, and flicked his right arm. The whip spear stretched like a snake, curling itself on the air and writhing around, blocking the way of the throwing stars easily and lashing out at Genma at the same time. The Konoha shinobi pulled out 2 kunai to parry them, and the noise of steel clashing with calcium echoed through the air. The whip managed to graze Genma's shoulder, and he winced. There was something in that bone which made him feel like his arm was disintegrating. He slumped down to the ground, and in a blink of an eye, Kimimaro was in front of him. His right arm now had something like a huge drill made of calcium grated into it. The menacing weapon descended down his head, and Genma couldn't even blink. His head was going to be drilled to bits. What a terrible way to die. Clang. Kimimaro stumbled back when the blade of a katana collided with his drill arm. "You're not gonna kill my comrade that easily, when I'm still here." Too absorbed into the fight, both Genma and the Kaguya had forgotten that they're not the only fighters in the field. Hayate was now standing between the 2 shinobi. On his hands, in a double grip, was a sword no one had ever seen him using before. It was a 6 feet long Nadachi, much longer than the normal katana he preferred using. The blade glimmered in sunlight, and anyone who looked closely could realize the shade of red gleaming across the cold steel. Hayate didn't move the sword an inch, yet the air around the blade hummed slightly as if the sword itself was singing. This is a new sword. Kimimaro glanced at the Nadachi on the Konoha swordmaster's hands impassively. Hayate glared back at him. Anyone who paid close attention might see the corner of his mouth rising up slightly. It's time to even the odds. Guy. On it. Leaf-searing wind. The fifth gate buffed rolling kick tore through the air, burning a trail of flame on its way before slamming into Juugo's body and sending him flying across the air. He crashed into a thick wall of earth which has 5 dog heads made of mud engraved into it. Immediately, the ground cracked open and from underground, mud surged up, covered Juugo and hardened immediately, immobilizing him. Did we get him? Guy stared at the mud statue in front of them. No, not yet, Kakashi shook his head. And right on cue, the statue exploded, showing an enraged Juugo inside. His transformation had advanced even further. All the skin on his body had turned completely dark, and his eye color had changed from white and ruby red to black with yellow irises. A black stripe ran from the middle of his forehead down the bridge of his nose. Some kind of strange black horn which looked like a hapori covered his face. And from his back, jet booster-like cylinders had sprouted out and were now all aiming at the 2 Konoha shinobi. This is not gonna be pretty. A giant beam of chakra shot out towards the Konoha Jonin with a loud cry of glee from Juugo. It was so large, there's no way the 2 Jonin could avoid it. No choice. I will have to use this, and finish this battle fast. Kakashi's Sharingan morphed into its Mangekyo Sharingan form. Kamui. Space twisted. A wormhole opened right on the way of the beam and swallowed it whole right before it could vaporize the 2 Jonin. The beam struggled to pass through, but even with all those power, there was no way it could cut through the fabric of dimensions. From somewhere far away, a certain Akatsuki member with a swirly mask suddenly cringed and silently thanked the god he wasn't using his ability right now. After 3 seconds, the beam finally lost its power and died down. 7th gate, Gate of Wonder. Open. Daytime tiger. And Juugo found himself swallowed by a tiger made of pure compressed air. He screamed out in pain, even when his body was enhanced to the maximum limit with his sage transformation. The technique's power was still too incredible for it to handle. The technique rushed past him and exploded, taking down another rather large chunk of Konohagakure with it. Juugo was sent sprawling away. Blood spewed out from his mouth. Never before had there been anyone who could injure him this much. But his body would heal up soon anyway, thanks to the nature chakra. Then he saw Kakashi rushing in. The man's right hand was glowing blue with the symbol of a kanji letter on each of his fingertips. 5 elements seal. What the? Orochimaru was startled when he felt Juugo's immense chakra suddenly disappearing. How could Juugo be defeated? Are Konoha shinobi that strong? What's wrong, Orochimaru? The voice of his old teacher rose next to his ears. Finally realize that you will never be able to destroy Konoha as you wish? Shut up. Why? Won't you die already? Orochimaru snarled angrily. The old senile just didn't know when to give up. He was 69 years old already, and he was slower and weaker than him. And yet, somehow, Orochimaru couldn't land a killing blow. In fact, he was being pushed back, bits by bits. The Kusanagi was a deadly weapon. Not only was it incredibly sharp, sturdy and able to stretch as long as the user wanted, the poison in, not on, the blade was so lethal one scratch it made on a person's skin could ensure a very painful death. One stab of the sword, and the victim would be as good as perishing. But that's if he managed to land a stab in the first place. Orochimaru cursed mentally. If only he could use a jutsu. How many times do I have to explain to you? Do you know the reason why you're weak, Orochimaru? The snake man raised his katana to block the staff swinging at his midsection. Weak? Ha. Don't make me laugh. He struggled, pushing the old man back. I have mastered hundreds of jutsu, killed a Kage, and got a hand on immortality already. And after I kill you, you still don't understand. Oh, but it is obvious, the Hokage chuckled. True power can only be acquired by fighting for the sake of the others. How can someone like you, who abandoned his village, abandoned his comrades, abandoned even his followers, understand that simple fact? Fuck you, old geezer, Orochimaru spat. If those puny weaklings out there are that important to you, I'll make you die in regret and despair when my army crushes them to bits. Crush them? Sarutobi chuckled again. You have overestimated yourself too much, Orochimaru. Konoha shinobi are strong not because they have Kekkei Genkai, powerful ninjutsu or incredible chakra. They are strong because they always fight with all their hearts to protect the ones they love. Ugh. Iruka kneeled on the ground, breathing heavily. In front of him, corpses of auto shinobi littered the corridor. He had fought valiantly. With only 2 kunai and a few shuriken as weapons, he had fended off the whole group of invaders, and even managed to kill a few of them. But that was still not enough. There were still 5 more left. And they were advancing towards him, their weapon raised high. "You bastard," the one in the middle snarled. "How dare you killing half of our squad like that? I'll kill you." "Like you're the one to talk." After trying to kill our students, Iruka shot back between gasps. The wounds on his body were bleeding badly. But he wouldn't back out. No, not when the lives of his students were being threatened. "You're not in a position to talk big now, teacher," the auto shinobi laughed cruelly. Iruka gritted his teeth. His head was getting light due to the blood loss, and his muscles felt weak. He forced himself to stand up, if he didn't finish this fast. Gah! A kunai lodged into his stomach. It's not like he didn't see that coming, he just couldn't move to dodge it. Iruka slumped back down on the ground, the 2 kunai he was holding slipped off his hands, falling to the wooden floor. "What's wrong? Oh so mighty teacher. Does it hurt?" The voice of an auto ninja rose above his head mockingly. "I was going to finish you quickly, but you have humiliated us so badly we cannot stand it. So, prepare to feel pain." And Iruka felt another kunai stabbing his right arm, piercing clean through the bones. He howled in pain. It was too much, too excruciating. If only the bastard just cut it off cleanly. It is painful, isn't it? But it's not done yet, there is more. And more. And more. The auto shinobi added each more with a stab to Iruka's body. All the others burst out laughing each time the kunai pierced the poor Chunin's skin, flesh and bone. "You bastards. And you're dead now," the torturer announced, and the kunai descended, ready to deal the decisive blow to Iruka's heart. The Chunin could only lie on the ground helplessly, his body couldn't move anymore, there was no way he could avoid death this time. "No. What? You're... Ugh. No. What's happening?" He could hear the sounds, but couldn't see. Was someone fighting the auto shinobi in his place? "No, Iruka-kun. No. Please don't die." The voice of the woman echoing around his ears was the last thing he knew before everything sank completely into darkness. When people precious to them are in danger, they can become much more powerful than anything you can imagine. I said, "What are you doing to my daughter?" Mebuki Haruno growled out in fury, squeezing the arm on her hand harder. "What the? Release me, old hag. I'll kill you for this," Kin screeched, glaring at the woman who was gripping her arm. And that was her biggest mistake. Wrong answer. Snap. Kin howled in agony when her right arm was broken like a twig by the seemingly harmless civilian woman behind her. Her kunai fell from her now useless hand to the ground and embedded itself on the grassy earth with a thud. And before she could even do anything, she felt herself lifted up by the neck. "Get out of here, or I'll break her neck," the scary woman growled at Zaku and Dosu. The situation was reversed once again. The one who took hostage now became the hostage herself. Instead of backing down, Zaku raised his hands, blasting another burst of sound wave at Kin and the 2 Haruno. The older woman pulled the other 2 aside, and the blast rushed past them, bringing down a large chunk of the wall behind. You dare throwing away the life of your teammate like that?" Mebuki asked, thoroughly disgusted. "This is not the time to worry about other people, hag," Zaku laughed arrogantly. Continuous slicing sound wave. Blasts after blasts of air wave rained down Mebuki's head. But even though she was holding the 2 girls on her arms while dodging left and right frantically, the woman didn't seem to get any kind of tiredness or discomfort. Her movements. They were definitely not the movements of a civilian. They were the movements of a veteran kunoichi. And that veteran kunoichi's eyes were gleaming dangerously at Zaku. Wait, what? Are you? Kin could only scream out those words when the older woman suddenly grabbed her collar and threw her at Zaku at the speed of a cannonball. But rather than catching her, Zaku blasted her out of the way with another slicing sound wave. The girl crashed into the ground, her broken arm was hanging at a very strange angle. Blood spurted out of her mouth. "Zaku, you fool," Dosu yelled at his teammate. "What the fuck are you doing, shooting down teammates like that?" "So what?" The haughty Autogenon snapped back. "She's on the way. Idiot. Do you realize how screwed we are right now? That woman is not a normal civilian, she must be at least a Chunin level kunoichi." Dosu screamed out. He was the only one of the team who realized the danger. And you went around and disabled your own teammate like that? Oh please. I'll bring her down in one shot. Zaku snorted. Slicing sound. Gah. All the air in his lungs was pushed out due to Mebuki's fist burying in his gut. But it was nothing. The punch really hurt, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. His training in Otogakura was much worse than this. Is that all you go? Wha? Shanaruo. And Zaku felt himself lifted off the ground. He weighed 60 kilograms, and yet he was launched away like a ragdoll just from a punch from a seemingly fragile woman. What the fuck? Sakura-san inherited that strength from her mother. So youthful. Lee muttered in awe. Zaku was sent rolling on the ground. His face skidded on the hard concrete of the hospital yard painfully. Arg. Fucking bitch. He choked out. I already told you, idiot, Dosu muttered. He made a leap towards the blonde woman, intending to punch her head off from behind. The Haruno woman spun on her heels, catching Dosu's fist on her hand. He smirked. The woman was a fool. His weapon is most effective at this range. Chakra rushed into the device. This woman is too dangerous. He will need to put everything he is into this blast. Then. Boom. To his shock, horror and pain, the device suddenly exploded violently, taking his left arm and a chunk of flesh on the right side of his body together with it. A slight shockwave of chakra washed through the yard, and Dosu slumped to the ground. What have you done? He gasped weakly, glaring at the woman who was now towering over him. A lesson for you, never use such a large amount of chakra in an over-reinforced weapon, it will just cause you more harm than good, was the cold answer coming from the leaf woman. She overloaded my weapon with her own chakra. In just that instant. Now Dosu understood. That woman. She didn't have superior firepower, didn't have superhuman strength, didn't even have vast amount of chakra. What she had just done. It's not even a jutsu. With just simple reinforcement of her body with chakra, she had knocked them all down. Easily. The blonde woman turned away. You have made a very big mistake trying to harm my daughter. Just lie there and face your retribution. Ugh. What happened? Tenten groaned, finally waking up. She gasped upon seeing the curb stomp battle in front of her eyes. It was so youthful, said Lee enthusiastically. I've never known Sakura-san's mother was this strong. No wonder why Sakura-san is so awesome. I'll have to push myself even more. If. Everyone's head snapped back. Zaku had stood up, both his arms were aiming at the Konoha Shinobi and his chakra was spiking up dangerously. Konoha bastards. I'll blow all you away. No. The three Konoha Shinobi sprang up on their feet, but they knew it was hopeless. No one was fast enough to stop him. That jutsu will bring down everything, the hospital, the Shinobi, everything. Ultimate supersonic slicing. No, you won't. And Zaku felt his heart exploding before he could unleash his jutsu. Literally. He gasped out his last breath and fell to the ground, dead. Hiyashi Hyuga glared at the body from behind distastefully. I'm not here to see what you were up to. Still as ruthless as ever, Hiyashi, Mebuki noted with a smile. The Hyuga head didn't even smile back. He looked around. I thought you had gone evacuated, Haruno-san. Where's your husband? My husband is assisting the evacuation in the hospital now, Mebuki replied. And seriously, all those years and you still couldn't get that stick out of your ass? Wait, Lee blurted out staring at the two adults in front of him. You two know each other? Hiyashi kept silence, but the Haruno lady answered. Of course we know each other. We used to be in the same team, me, my husband and him. But I retired after I married Kazashi and had Sakura, so it's natural you don't hear about me very much. My name is Mebuki Haruno, by the way. Mebuki. Mebuki. Tenten muttered in her breath. Why does that name sound so familiar? Wait, she asked when Mebuki started lifting her daughter up bridal style. Are you, by any chance, related to Mebuki Takamichi? The Haruno lady blanked. Well, it was my birth name, before I married Kazashi, but... No. Freaking. Way. You're that Mebuki Takamichi? The kunoichi who made Chunin with nothing but taijutsu and reinforcement technique? Everyone stared at Tenten, who was holding her mouth, her eyes widened. You are so cool. Can I have your autograph please? Can you train me? I want to become a powerful kunoichi like you and Tsunade-sama. Please please please. Everyone's sweat dropped. Did I just get a fangirl, Hiyashi? Mebuki looked at her ex-teammate. The Hyuga didn't answer, but anyone who paid attention could see a slight smirk on his face. Now you know the horror of having fangirls, Haruno-san. Oh, shut up. And never forget, Konoha never betrays others, so our friends will always be here for us in need. Captain. Suna has turned against us, they're attacking all of our bases right now. What? How is that possible? Arg. A blade of wind slashed through the tent, decapitating the auto captain and his subordinate with a nasty squelch. Suna Shinobi? For Sunagakur. For the Kazekage. For our long-lasting alliance. The auto force couldn't even know what had hit them. Kimimaro narrowed his eyes looking at the new sword on his opponent's hands. He didn't know what was so special about that sword. But even so, when he looked at the blade, he could feel some strange sensations crawling up his skin. Could it be? He shrugged it away. Lowering his stance, he charged at the swordsman, his drill arm surging forward, intending to impale his enemy. With a weapon as big and heavy as his bone drill, blocking is not an option. It will just crush through whatever his enemy uses to block easily as if they were made of paper. And to his surprise, his enemy didn't even seem to have any intention to dodge or block. Instead, he made a wide, fast swing aiming at his shoulder, clearly intending to cleave him in half. But an attack like this was nothing. He raised his drill arm, and the blade of the sword was stopped dead on its track. His bones are as hard as steel, blocking something like this is just a child's play. Then he felt pain. Several gashes suddenly appeared on his chest from nowhere. He gasped out and leapt back, but the damage was done. Blood was now leaking out of the wounds on his chest, and his white haure was shredded into bits of cloth on the ground. But he didn't have time to panic, as the swordsman had already closed in again, and launched an uppercut at him. This time, Kimimaro didn't dare being rash. Bones burst out from under his skin, covering his whole body right before the blade could connect. The blade clashed with the bone armor, cutting it into pieces, but couldn't damage the auto ninja any further. The two ninja disengaged, and Kimimaro retreated a few steps, while looking at his opponent calculatingly. "You fought better," he noted. It's very hard to believe the man could still keep his calm demeanor after that. Especially after bringing out that sword. "What is it?" "It is definitely not a normal sword," Hayate chuckled. "Good for you to realize it. But will you survive long enough to know of its special power?" The swordsman closed in again. The length of his weapon gave him a clear advantage. But this time, Kimimaro had anticipated it and leapt back before it could deal any damage to him. And he realized it. "So that's its ability," he muttered. "When you strike with that sword, not only one, but at least 3 slashes come out. This sword can cut through space-time to deliver an unavoidable series of slashes at the same time. Dangerous ability, indeed. Realize it, huh?" Hayate smirked. "Then you need to know that when Muramasa is drawn, blood will shed. You are such a formidable enemy you have the honor to taste its blade." "Indeed," Kimimaro answered calmly. "But I wonder whose blood will shed if you continue to use that sword longer." So he figured that out too. Muramasa, the sword named after its creator, the famous swordsmith Sengo Muramasa, was not a normal sword. It was said to be so sharp that it could cut through even the fabric of dimensions, but it was also said to be a bloodthirsty sword which drained its wielder's blood each time it was unsheathed. Hayate had inherited the sword from his deceased Kenjutsu master, but he never dared to use it, because of the deadly drawback. And right now, his hands and forearms were, indeed, bleeding quite badly. He was starting to feel lightheaded from losing blood. "Hey, so what?" Despite the pain wrecking through his body, Hayate still smirked. "This is more than enough to handle you. And I will finish you in the next strike." He bluffed, hoping his opponent would catch it and back down. And he caught it, indeed. But instead of backing down. "You are right. Then I think it's time for me to use my full power." Sweat formed on the swordsman's forehead when strange black markings started spreading out from a strange symbol on Kimimaro's chest. "Not good. You are not fighting alone." Leaf style, crescent moon dance, Kimimaro snapped his head back to see 3 Genma leaping at him, their machetes swinging at him, aiming for his neck, his waist and his legs. Squelch. The 3 Genma were impaled with extreme prejudice by a barrage of bones shot out from Kimimaro's body. Kimimaro didn't bother to look back again. His eyes returned to Hayate, who, with his sword, was ready to charge in again. He completely missed the slight smirk blooming on one of the Genma's face. Boom. The Genma clones exploded with an incredible force. Different from what people think, the clone explosion jutsu is not that hard to learn and use. As long as the user can use the shadow clone jutsu effectively, the clone explosion can be a great addition to his arsenal if he wants things to blow up. And it can become even deadlier if the clones used are buffed with elemental chakra, like Genma was doing right now. Soon, The clearing was drowned in fire. The real Genma ran back to where Hayate was clutching his arm in pain. "Are you alright?" "Yeah, I'm alright," answered the swordsman with a heavy sigh. "I didn't expect I needed to unseal this sword, though. That guy is so strong." "I know." The elite guard agreed. "But it seems we got him." "No, you didn't." The two Konoha shinobi snapped their heads up in shock. From within the inferno, Kimimaro walked out. There were some burning marks on his body, but they were quickly covered by the dark skin similar to what was on the other experiments' bodies. His body had now morphed into a form similar to a dinosaur, with 6 large bone spikes sprouting out of his back and a long tail, also spiked with bones. Dark power was radiating from him, sending shivers down the two Konoha shinobi's spines. "You are very strong, Konoha shinobi. You have pushed me to the point I have to resort to this. But now, it's over. So strong. I could even feel his chakra from here. Is he even human?" Hayate raised his sword, but his eyes suddenly widened, and he collapsed on the ground. Using Muramasai had taken too much from his body, he couldn't even stand properly anymore. Damn it. Is this really the end? Dance of the Sea. Wind Scythe Jutsu. Before Kimimaro could unleash his final jutsu, he was blown away by a massive tornado. The man flew through the trees in the forest, his body crashed into the ground painfully. "What?" All three combatants exclaimed at the same time when 30 Sunagaku shinobi landed around them. "Sorry for being late, Konoha friends," the leader of the group, Baki, glanced back at Genma and Hayate. "From now on, just leave this to us." "No. This cannot be," Orochimaru exclaimed in horror seeing all of his plans collapsed piece by piece in front of his eyes. The old Sarutobi smiled triumphantly in answer. "Yes, it can, and it already happened. Your army was crushed, your most powerful subordinates were defeated, and your ally had turned against you. You have failed, Orochimaru." Orochimaru's pale face turned a brilliant purple shade with fury. Everything he had spent months to plan, the elite forces he had spent years to train, the experiments he had spent years to create and perfect, were now all crumbling to dust, because of a senile old man and the ragtag bunch of misfits he called his shinobi. It cannot be. He is Orochimaru. He is the one who got closest to the secret of immortality. How could he be defeated so easily and shamefully? "At least, if I cannot destroy Konoha, I can destroy you instead," he snarled. He swung Kusanagi in a deadly arc at the old Hokage's shoulder, intending to cleave him in half, but the old man just nimbly dodged to a side, and the sword just slashed at air. "You are desperate, Orochimaru," the old man continued to taunt him, in his annoyingly calm voice. "You are so desperate that you have to resort to impure world reanimation to fight me. Your movement is slowing down. And do you really think that I couldn't figure out the trick behind the jutsu? What? Tobirama-sensei, when he first invented the jutsu, didn't note anything about its drawbacks into the Forbidden Scroll. Now I understand why he did that. He had been confident that only he could use the jutsu effectively, and anyone who dared using it to bring back someone powerful would suffer from the consequence. That's the reason why you cannot use any ninjutsu after that, and also the reason you have to erase their personalities. You don't have enough chakra to balance with the people you summoned, and you're too scared of them overcoming your control." Shit. He already figured it out. He cannot risk it anymore. He needs to retreat now, and come back some other days. It's too late to back down now, Orochimaru. You're within my divine zodiac sealing formation. Orochimaru's head snapped back when the words of Jiraiya reached his ears. He was standing within a sealing formation on the ground, drawn from Jiraiya's blood in the shape of a circle with the symbols of the 12 zodiacs covering it. Being an adept in Fuinjutsu himself, this seal was not something Orochimaru was unfamiliar with. Designed by Mito Uzumaki herself, it was the most powerful Fuinjutsu Konohagakure possessed, even stronger than the 8 trigram sealing style Minato Namikaze had used to seal the Kyuubi. It was designed to continuously and rapidly absorb the chakra of the individual targeted without fail. There was a rumor that the Uzumaki woman had used this seal to seal the Kyuubi into herself. And right now, Orochimaru was standing right on top of it. The dead last had spent all those time, when the Hokage was fending him off, to prepare this seal. And immediately, Orochimaru felt drained. Every bit of chakra seemed to leave his body at once. He couldn't even feel his leg anymore. His body collapsed on the ground, and his body screamed out in agony. The 3 zombie cage suddenly halted their movements, as there was not enough chakra pumping into the control talismans in their heads to keep them inbound anymore. He desperately leapt up, intending to get away from the draining circle under him, but suddenly, Arms made of rock and magma burst out from the ground and grabbed his body, stopping him from moving completely. There was no other choice for him. His mouth gaped wide, and from the inside, another body crawled out, allowing him to get away. And by doing that, he had put the final nail on his coffin himself. And this is the end, Sarutobi finished. Then with a very quick swing, the adamantine staff finally met the targets it had been following all the times, the heads of the 3 zombie cage, and the control talismans inside of them. Orochimaru's eyes widened when the 3 dead cage reformed again. But this time, their eyes had regained the fire of their own wills coming back. Ah, this is much better, Tobirama cracked his neck. It feels great to have control of my body again. So that is the one who dared summon us back in our full power, Hashirama noted, glaring at Orochimaru who had just landed a few steps away. No. I'm not going to be defeated like this. Orochimaru screamed, and clapped his hands. From underground, 3 coffins burst out and swallowed the 3 resurrected cage, and started sinking down into the ground again. At least I still have them in my hands. And the next time, everything will be different. Orochimaru thought when the coffin containing the Kazekage disappeared into the ground completely. He looked at the Sound 4, and they dispelled the barrier around the stadium, ready to depart. Then suddenly, the 2 coffins containing the 2 Hokage shone brightly and exploded. What the? How? Fool, the voice of Tobirama suddenly rose right next to his ears. Next time, if you want to resurrect someone, don't ever choose the jutsu's creator himself who is much stronger than you and knows things about the jutsu that you cannot ever know. And Orochimaru felt his body cut in half, courtesy of the second Hokage's flying thunder god slash. Snakes crawled out from the 2 halves of his body, reconnecting them, but he knew that he wouldn't last very long. Not against 3 most powerful Hokage in the history, the Mizukage, and Jiraiya at the same time. Hey! Hey. Seems he finally lost it, Mei noted. You won't get me that easily. 8 branches jutsu. And everyone was sent flying. The stadium exploded when a gigantic serpent with 8 heads and 8 tails exploded from Orochimaru's body. It's just like a tailed beast was suddenly unleashed right inside the village. The civilians, who were sleeping soundly under Kakashi's genjutsu before, were all flung into the sky, and were now falling into the ground in a dangerous speed. They would all die before anyone could do anything. Wood-style, cushioning flower bed. From everywhere within Konoha, flowers of all colors suddenly bloomed. They looked very fragile, but they took the collisions from the falling civilians easily as if they were made from the best type of rubber available to human. All the flying people landed on top of the flower bed, completely unharmed. Seems this trick still works, the first Hokage said with a smile. Wow, this is incredible, Mei said in awe. Mizukage or not, she is still a woman. And women like pretty things, no exception. We cannot let this snake destroy the village, Jiraiya bellowed, snapping everyone out of their trances. The snake was now scrambling around, trying to crush everything it could reach. From one of its mouths, Orochimaru emerged, cackling madly. See that, old geezer? See that? No matter what you do, you won't stop me from destroying Konoha. Ha 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 ha. I will take it out of the village first. Tobirama glanced back at the other shinobi. He jumped on the serpent, and with a bright flash, both snake and man disappeared from view, only to appear in the forest a few miles from Konoha. Sarutobi looked at his helpers. All right, let's go. Before he could finish the sentence, he had collapsed on the ground. The battle before, using a lot of jutsu and the gates had drained him so much he had no more strength to even stand properly. But his body didn't reach the ground, because Jiraiya had managed to catch him on his arms. The old Hokage looked at his student, regret filling his eyes. I'm sorry Jiraiya. It seems I can only do this much. The Toad Sage let out a chuckle. Believe it or not, you're old, sensei. Just take a nice rest. We will take it from here. That's great, Sarutobi breathed out, and his body went limp, his eyes closed. Jiraiya looked back at Mei, who was walking towards them. Lady Mizukage, can I entrust my sensei to you? Mei answered him with a smile. Of course, Jiraiya-sama. She took the old man from Jiraiya's hands, and the Toad Sage looked back at Hashirama. So Lord First, are you going? The ex-Hokage grinned. You're Sara's student, right? It seems he had trained you very well. Of course I'll come with you. Then. Summoning jutsu. With a loud pop and a big cloud of smoke, Game Bunta the Toad Boss appeared in the stadium ruin. Bunta, see that snake over there? Jiraiya pointed at the white serpent from afar. We need to go there and stop it. What? Game Bunta grumbled unhappily. It's been so long since you last summoned me. And the first thing you do is asking me to fight for you? And that snake? Isn't that the 8 branches jutsu? Who dare use that disgusting technique? Orochimaru. Now, are we going or not, Bunda? I'll have a drink with you later, Jiraiya answered exasperatedly. Hearing the name, the chief Toad didn't complain anymore, but he was still grumbling something which sounded like ungrateful brats in his throat. With an incredible leap, the Toad took off, bringing the 2 shinobi back to the battlefield. What was that? Tamari started in horror when she felt the ground shook as a giant serpent with 8 heads and 8 tails suddenly appeared from nowhere and landed on the ground about 2 miles away from where they were. Think we should go there and check? Sasuke looked at Naruto, whose head was also looking at the direction. Naruto nodded in worry. Yeah, I think. Then he thought of Gaara, who was still sleeping on his shoulder. What should he do now? His eyes glanced at the sky, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. On second thought, we don't need to. Let's just leave it to Pervy Sage and his companions. 1 second later, Game Ubuntu landed on the ground with another slight earthquake. For a climactic battle, it's kinda disappointing that the final battle was totally one-sided. Even if you are, or have become the legendary monster Yamada no Orochi, the monster known to have needed the power of a god to slay, facing the 3 people who might be considered the most powerful in the whole history of the world, including one who was considered the fastest human and the ultimate master of water in his era. The Toad Sage of Mount Myaboku together with the Chief Toad Game Ubuntu, and the man who was known as the God of Shinobi, armed with a power which could subdue even the most powerful tailed beast and Madara Uchiha at the same time. Well, Sage art with style, true several thousand hands. And it's not a very bright idea to piss them off too, you know. Or try to destroy their village. The 1,000 hands surged forward from the giant wood statue, impaling the writhing body of the serpent which was rampaging around, furious as its target had been robbed. The giant snake screeched in pain, thrashing around wildly as the chakra inside its body was being suppressed by the wood stakes. The 8 scaly heads raised high, and from the mouths, snakes burst out, within each of which a copy of the Kusanagi poked out, aiming at the 3-leaf shinobi. Water style, water slicing wave. But the snake couldn't even reach their targets. The very sharp wave of water coming from the second Hokage's mouth had cut them into pieces when they're still in the air, and snake meat rained down the forest clearing. Sage art, Gate of the Great God, 16 seals. From the sky, 16 torii gates fell down and trapped the tails and heads under them, completely locking the serpent from moving again. Now it's our turn, Bunta. You don't need to remind me. Sage art collaboration, fire style, Toad flame bomb. And the snake, together with the whole 1-mile radius of the forest, was drowned in a sea of fire coming from the Toad Sage. For a while, no sound could be heard except for the cracking and burning noise of the trees and the agony screeching coming from the snake. Finally, the flame died down, and Jiraiya jumped down from Game Ubuntu's back. He grabbed Orochimaru's neck, which was now poking out of a lifeless mouth of the dead snake body. Any last word, Orochimaru? He growled. The snake Sannin just glared at him and sneered. Think that's enough to stop me, fool? You can kill my body here, but you're not going to get rid of me that easily. Soon, I'll come back, stronger than ever, and you'll all pay for humiliating me today. Ha 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 ha. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. But then, they closed, and to Orochimaru's surprise, a sad smile appeared on the Toad Sage's mouth. You know, Orochimaru, since the time we're in Team 7, I've always admired you. No matter how hard I tried, you're always the better person. Everyone had always favored you over me. Sometimes, I was so jealous of you. But no matter what, I still consider you the best friend I've ever had. If you turn your head, we can give you a chance. Orochimaru seemed stunned in a second. Then, hey! Ha 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 ha. Oh, this is so rich, he laughed like a madman. The dead last wants to give me a chance. Like hell, I need the pity of Konoha losers. Just kill me and be done with it. And he spat on Jiraiya's face. The Toad Sage didn't say anything for 5 seconds. At the 6th, he opened his eyes, and the stern expression once again returned to his face. Very well. If that was your choice. He opened his hand, and a Rasengan appeared on his palm. Goodbye, Orochimaru, he said, and thrust the deadly ball of chakra into Orochimaru's torso. Enhanced with nature chakra, the jutsu easily drilled through the body and tore apart all the snake Sannin's organs to shred. And with that, the invasion of Konoha came to a close. Jiraiya threw the body to the ground, and used a quick fire jutsu to incinerate it. Then he turned and walked away, back to the village. Jiraiya-kun, are you alright? On his shoulder, Lady Shima asked worriedly. The man didn't answer, but if anyone paid attention, they could see one, and only one drop of tears trickling down his cheek. Even with all the destruction around, it's still beautiful to see so many people working together like this. Konoha citizens and Suna Shinobi were working side by side to clean up the war zone and tend the wounded. From time to time, laughters and playful slaps to the back could be heard from corners of the village, where Shinobi and workers were sitting together, drinking cold tea and chatting joyfully after a hard day of labor. Their work was pretty much of a breather though, considering the thousands of orange blondes running around, helping them in any way they could. Naturally, many people, both of Suna and Konoha, were baffled. "Can't believe I would live to see a day when that brat becomes helpful," a Konoha resident sneered. "Well, I don't know, he seems pretty good to me," the Suna Shinobi next to him noted. "He was the one who defeated our village's Jinchuriki after all." "Yeah right," the Konohan sneered again. "As if he could do that without Sasuke-sama's help. I bet he just hid in some hole and waited until Sasuke-sama subdued the demon, then jumped out to take the spotlight." Thwack. The worker stumbled to the ground painfully, his cheek now swollen with a red handprint. It was Haku who had just slapped him. "You bastard," she yelled, not even caring that everyone was gawking at her. "How dare you? Naruto-kun risked his own life fighting that Jinchuriki to save your lives. If you have time to sit here and say things like that, why don't you just go out there and fight the Jinchuriki yourself?" The man pushed himself up in anger and snarled at Haku. "You don't know what you're saying, stupid girl. That brat is no better than." Then he squeaked in fear when a slab of wood crashed down on the ground right between his legs. Zabuza's head poked out from behind the wood pole. "Oops, sorry, didn't see you there. You." The civilian growled and started to rise from the ground again. But he was still smart enough to stop when he saw the giant Zanbato behind Zabuza's back. And he was completely startled when the bandaged man's face appeared right next to his right ear in just a blink of an eye. "Listen up, idiot," the Kiri swordsman whispered. "Trust me, you don't want to mess with Jinchuriki. Every single one of them have more than enough power to erase villages like this one from the world map. So." He lowered his voice, so that only the worker could hear him. "You should feel lucky that the brat is too kind-hearted and forgiving to even consider doing that. But remember, never try to poke the eye of a sleeping dragon if you don't want to die." Then he stood straight up and walked away, waving at Haku to follow him, leaving the civilian worker trembling in fear behind. "What was that for, Dad? You nearly scared that man to death," Haku complained when they were out of the ear range. Zabuza just shook his head. "Haku, no matter how good a kunoichi you are, you're still too young. There are things in this world you cannot understand. Not yet." Naruto Uzumaki. He stared at the sky. "If this is what you have suffered during your childhood, I must say, you're incredible. All those years being treated like an outcast, a failure, a monster, and you still haven't snapped. Instead, your heart is always filled with kindness and love to all those people who despised you. You're much better than me. No, than anyone I've ever known in this world." He looked at the girl who was pouting next to him, and smirked internally. "Maybe someday I can even entrust my daughter to you." That Zabuza. Is he trying to make people hate me even more? The real Naruto scowled. One clone nearby had popped after observing the whole ruckus, and he could feel the memory of the conversation rushing back to his head. "I'm sure he just wanted the best for you, Naruto-kun," said Matatabi quellingly. "Yeah right," Naruto snorted mentally. "I doubt he could ever forget about that time when Haku-chan kissed me. Seriously, she did that by herself." He was on his way to the hospital. The first thing he had planned to do after waking up was to send out clones to help in the village, and going to the hospital to visit Iruka-sensei, Hokage Gigi, Karen-chan and everyone he knew there. The girls inside his head giggled, and a few blocks away, Zabuza sneezed. "You know, you're the most admirable person I've ever met, Naruto." Naruto actually stopped on his way upon hearing Juki's comment. "Eh? What are you talking about, Jinky?" The octopus chuckled. "During the time I stayed with B, I was surprised that a Jinchuriki could be so cheerful and carefree. Now, I feel I could see him again in you, Naruto, but maybe even better. B didn't have to suffer from hatred all around him like you, maybe that's why he could keep his happy attitude all the time. But you, surrounded by hatred since the day you were born, from everyone around you and even from Kurama inside you, it's really a miracle that you could still be this kind-hearted and forgiving to everyone. Yeah, Shukaku quipped in. Sometimes I wonder if you were really Chome's Jinchuriki instead of Kurama." Saikyo bopped her slightly on the head. "Don't be mean, Shukaku-ne-chan. Naruto didn't say anything for a while. Then, when he finally did, on his face was a smile, but there were also tears on his eyes. "Thanks guys. Those words. They mean a lot to me." He couldn't see them, but he could feel the encouraging smiles from the tailed beasts inside him. A warm feeling suddenly swept through his heart. He had never thought about it before, but the tailed beasts were just like a family to him. Kurama was like a mother who was sometimes strict and short-tempered, but still caring and would always be there if he needed her. Kokuo was the all-knowing father who could help him understand anything he didn't know. Jinki took the role of the badass but carefree uncle. Mutatabi, Isabu and Goku were the cool, overdoting big sister and quirky, hot-blooded brothers who liked bickering with each other. And Chomei and Saikyo were the two cute little sisters who were completely contrast in personality. One was always energetic, cheerful and happy, one was shy and seemingly cold to other people. His heart throbbed. The last time, he had got only less than 5 people who he could even consider his family. Now, he had 9 more. "Alright, let's go. To Iruka-sensei and everyone," he cheerfully announced. "What happened to my students? Are they alright?" That was the first question Iruka asked when the nurse in charge got to his room to give him his first dose of medicine. The woman smiled at him warmly. "They're definitely okay, Iruka-san. We won, the invaders are retreating, and none of your students was hurt in any way." The Chunin teacher sighed in relief, and relaxed himself back into his comfy bed again. Thank goodness. Then he remembered something else important. "Wait, so who brought me here?" The nurse giggled. "She doesn't want me to tell you, so I won't. But really, seeing her carrying you here bawling like a schoolgirl was one of the things I've never thought I could see in my life," she said while injecting a syringe of medicine into Iruka's bicep a little bit too forcefully, making him wince. "Okay, Iruka-san, it's done. Now, you should take a rest, as your body is still weak." After such a brutal fight, she finished while walking out of the room, still giggling like crazy. If Iruka was able to move his arms, he would be scratching his head in confusion. "Ah, Iruka-sensei, you're awake." But his confusion would be put aside. Right now, there was a hyperactive, unpredictable student of him poking his head into the room. "Naruto." He smiled. "Come in." And then I rushed in, slapped the seal on Gaara's forehead, and he fainted. Just like that. Naruto couldn't resist giving Iruka a blow-by-blow description of how he and Sasuke had fought and defeated Gaara, minus anything about his friends helping him of course. Iruka didn't say anything until Naruto had finished talking himself into silence. He just watched the boy with enormous affection and pride. Sensei? Why are you crying?" Naruto looked up confusedly. Indeed, in Iruka's eyes, tears had started welling up. But at the same time, on his mouth was the brightest smile Naruto had ever seen on him. "Kakashi was right," he mouthed quietly. "You're no longer the helpless student I used to teach in the academy. You have become strong, really strong. Now I can say that I made no mistake giving you that headband in the forest that night. I'm proud of you, Naruto." Naruto couldn't even find a word to say for 30 seconds. Then, "Iruka-sensei." "Oh. Hey Naruto. Ow ow ow. My ribs. They're still healing." "Naruto ooh. Iruka-sensei really is the greatest sensei ever," Naruto sniffed. "Yeah, and you repaid him by breaking his ribs," Shukaku inside him deadpan snarkily. "Come on. I already said I was sorry." They had left Iruka's room after Naruto had broken 3 of Iruka's still-mending ribs by a crushing hug. Naruto still shuddered whenever he remembered about the head nurse storming into the room, gasping in horror when she saw the state of her patient and kicking him out of the room while shouting curses at him, something like "Are you trying to murder him? Get out. Out." "She has a point, you know," Chomei commented. "I'm like a goddess of happiness myself, but I've never seen someone expressing it by getting blue-faced and foaming at the mouth before. You guys. So who are we going to visit next?" Saikyo voiced her question timidly, and Naruto stopped to ponder. I think we should go see Gaara next. I haven't got a chance to talk to him during the fight, so I think a little talk will do good for him." "Oh, here we are." They had arrived at a room with 3 Anbu members guarding the entrance. One of them raised his hand. "Halt. What business do you have with this patient?" Naruto stared dumbly at the 3 guards for a while. He hadn't even thought that no matter what happened, Gaara was still a prisoner of war. And obviously, he cannot just barge in to visit him without permission from someone with authority. "Oh, just let him in, will you? He's with me." Naruto's head snapped back, and he saw Jiraiya standing next to him, his usual smile on his face. "Master Jiraiya. Purview Sage." A vein popped on the man in question's forehead. "I've told you many times not to call me that, brat." "Oh please." Naruto scoffed back. "You wouldn't deny that you're a pervert, would you?" "Of course I would. I'm definitely not a pervert." "Oh yeah? Then what the heck are you?" "A super pervert, of course." "Yeah right. Then I will just call you Super Pervy Sage from now on." "Why you? Just get in there already." The two males were kicked violently into Gaara's patient room by one of the Anbu, who, obviously, was a female. What just happened? Her teammate, a man with short, spiky black hair and the bird mask, blinked in confusion. "Aw, Gaara-kun looks so cute when he's sleeping." Muratabi swooned when she saw the redhead lying unconsciously on his bed. "Don't you dare have any funny idea with him, or..." Shikaku muttered in her breath, small enough so no one could hear, but unfortunately, Muratabi was a cat. And cats have very good ears. "Ooh, our Shuki-chan finally has a crush." Shikaku blushed bright red. "Wah. Ooh, did you just say Shuki-chan had a crush? Who is it? Who is it?" Chomei, enthusiastic and mischievous as always, piped in. One had to wonder if Shikaku's face could get redder than it was now. And naturally, she hid her embarrassment by jumping Muratabi, who was snickering next to her. While the others were watching two girls trying to tear each other apart in amusement, Juki suddenly said, "Naruto, can you let me out for a while?" "Huh? What's wrong?" "Oh, nothing. I just want to check out something." Naruto was confused, but still complied. With a puff of smoke, the human form of Juki appeared in the room, next to Jiraiya, who was looking down at Gaara's unconscious body. The Toad Sage, however, didn't show any surprise at all when the man suddenly popped out. He was too focused on Gaara to even realize it. "So you also realized it, huh?" Cue Jiraiya's heart leaping out of his chest in surprise. What the hell? Where did you come from?" Juki just shrugged with a smirk. "From Naruto, of course. I'm Juki, known as the Eight Tails to you." "So, you noticed what was wrong with Gaara's seal already?" "How can I not notice that?" Jiraiya scowled in disdain. Sealing a tailed beast into a child is already something inhumane enough, but what kind of parents did something like this to his child? Screw that, who in their right mind would seal a tailed beast into someone's brain? No wonder he became a psychotic murderer at this age. Then he grumbled. "My skill in Fuinjutsu might be considered one of the best in this whole continent, but even I cannot fix something like this without risking his life. Hell, even a master of Fuinjutsu cannot do that without crippling him for life." Juki's eyes twinkled. "Well, a master cannot, but what about the master of masters?" "Okay, it's done." Jiraiya's mouth opened and closed like the mouth of a fish dropped on the ground. "How in the world did you do that?" "I'm not called the master of masters in Fuinjutsu for nothing," Juki answered smugly. And he nearly jumped when the Toad Sage suddenly kneeled down and hugged his leg. "Master, please take this useless man as your apprentice. Please." It's needless to say how freaked out Juki was. "Naruto, I'm gonna go back now." "Oh, and if I calculate right, Gaara is going to wake up in, well, 5 seconds. So take care." And with a pop, he disappeared, leaving a disappointed super pervert crawling on the ground. Right on cue, Gaara groaned, and started rolling on the bed. Jiraiya jumped up on his feet immediately in alert, but Naruto grabbed his hand. "Pervy Sage, can you leave me alone with him? I'll be alright." Jiraiya seemed uneasy about that request, but after looking into Naruto's eyes, he nodded, and disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the blonde boy alone with Gaara in the room. Gaara groggily opened his eyes. It's been a very long time since he last had a sleep. Maybe that's why he was so tired. He just wanted to fall back into sleep again. Wait a second. He had slept. His eyes snapped open, all the tiredness suddenly disappeared from his body. And the first thing he saw was a blonde, spiky head. His mind immediately went into overdrive. "He's here to kill me." He roared and thrust his hand forward, intending to crush the boy in front of him, but to his surprise and horror, no sand came out upon his command. "No. Don't come here." He screamed out hysterically, trying desperately to sink into the wall to avoid the blonde killer who was advancing towards him. But it was useless. Without his sand, without Mother's protection, he couldn't do anything. He was going to be killed. He just didn't expect the blonde boy to engulf him in a hug. Gaara cringed. All his life, he hadn't even been hugged once. Most people who got close to him only wanted to murder him. No one had ever given him something like this. And he was scared. What if this was some plan from bad people who wanted to kill him again? What if this was a jutsu that killed upon contact? Strangely, He felt a weird warmth starting to emerge inside his chest. What is this? What is this feeling? It is scary, it feels strange, it feels good. Mother. Please save me. Why? Am I not dying? He croaked out when he realized that he was, indeed, still alive and healthy. Naruto just looked at him confusedly. Eh? Why are you dying? You're making contact with me. Touching me. And it feels weird. It feels good. That came out kinda wrong, snarked Goku inside Naruto's mind. And I can't hear mother anymore. Mother. Mother. Where are you? Give me back my mother. Everyone in Naruto's head glared at Shukaku. Naruto, I think it's time for poor Gaara to make a visit to his own mindscape, said Juki. When Gaara opened his eyes, he was not sitting on the bed in his patient room anymore. Instead, he was standing in an endless desert, spreading towards the horizon. Was he sent back to Suna already? But no. This was not the desert he knew, because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the hot, empty and lifeless desert at home. The sand was moving around with the wind, but somehow, he felt as if it had a life of its own. The wind also didn't whip around like usual. Well, it did, but somehow, it felt more like it was caressing his face gently rather than trying to cut his skin. And the sun was of a tranquil golden color, unlike the harsh, glaring sun in Suna's desert. It's because you're in your mindscape now, Gaara. Gaara's head jerked back, and he saw a pair of sapphire eyes. Naruto chuckled. Well, your face was too obvious. What are you doing here? The redhead asked in a monotone voice. Naruto just chuckled again. I just don't want to leave you alone. After all, you don't have many friends before, right? It will be kinda lonely here, you know. You're the one who sent me here, Gaara retorted with a slightly deadpan expression. I told you that sending him here by chopping him at the back of his neck was not a good idea, rumbled something behind the two boys, making Gaara jump. What was that? Oh, just my tailed beast speaking. I'm a Jinchuriki too, just like you know? Gaara was stunned. He had known Uzumaki was powerful way before, but he had really never expected the boy in front of him to be the same as himself. So you know? Yes, Gaara, I know how heavy the burden of being a Jinchuriki is, Naruto answered him with a nod. Yeah, most people in Konoha hated me, too. To them, I was nothing more than a monster, and a piece of trash. My teachers tended to sabotage my career during my academy days. And there wasn't a week I didn't receive an attempt on arson and vandalism. They also attempted to kill me sometimes. And worse, I don't even have someone like your brother and sister around me. By now, the world around Gaara was starting to spin. If that was the case, how could the Uzumaki still be so calm, cheerful and sane? How? Did I keep my sanity? Naruto didn't even need Gaara to finish his question. He smiled. Luckily for me, although I don't have a family, Hokage Gigi, my sensei, and my friends served as one for me. They are always with me whenever I need them, always there to comfort me whenever I feel down, always there to correct me whenever I do something wrong. Without them, who knows what I will become? Maybe even worse than you are, I bet. Gaara's head lowered. Friends, huh? I don't have friends. No one even wants to go near me, he said miserably. Naruto grinned. Then I'll be your first friend. And after that, you can go and make friends yourself, it will be alright. Oh, and by the way, I didn't send you here only to talk about this, I also want you to meet someone. Let's go. Then he grabbed Gaara's hand and pulled him away, as if this was his own mindscape, despite the redhead squirming. The two boys stopped in front of a fence. Gaara stared. This is a fence. Duh. Who the hell in their right mind put a fence in the middle of a desert? Technically, this is your mindscape. Oh, very funny, haha. I didn't know you could snark. Shut up. The boys stared at the fence even more. So, who do you want me to meet here? So you're finally here, Gaara-kun. The voice sent chill down Gaara's spine. He had heard this voice for years, ever since his uncle Yashimaru died trying to kill him. Mother's voice. From the sand, the hulky shape of Shukaku emerged. What's wrong, Gaara-kun? The tanuki droned in a sickeningly sweet, but malicious tone. Evil people have locked mother in here. Break this down, release me, and we will kill all the bad people. Proving your existence. As if he was hypnotized, Gaara inched towards the fence. Mother. Oh, cut it out, Shuki-chan. That's not gonna fool anyone. Shukaku's head turned abruptly towards the direction of the voice. You. She snarled. Naruto just grinned cheekily at the tanuki. Hi, Shuki-chan. Feeling good in there? I'll kill you. The beast roared angrily, and lunged forward, her claws aimed at Naruto's face. One more step and Naruto's head would be crushed to a pulp. Zap. Yagaya. Well, that was weird, Naruto sweat dropped. You. What have you done to me? Shukaku bellowed, trying to ram the barrier once again. It didn't work. Zap. Gah. That's one of my masterpieces in sealing art, Juki's voice echoed smugly around them again. As long as she wears that collar on her neck, she won't be able to get past the fence. A very effective way to stop her from rampaging, and still give her a sense of comfort. Naruto stared at the twitching mess that was Shukaku on the ground. You know, I think you shouldn't try that again. Unless you like being electrocuted. Naturally, she ignored him. Zap. Muguo. And Shukaku spontaneously combusted. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Is that in the seal's design? Nope, the voice answered, just as confused as Naruto. In another universe. Muguo. Mwini Tanuki. That's Makachwode. Munya. Burn. Hiaheye. Z. A blonde boy looked at the little girl who was drooling on his lap blissfully, unaware of anything around her. You know, Mom, adorable as she is, Sayuri is incredibly scary sometimes. His mother, a beautiful, well-endowed woman with black hair, a pair of black fox ears and 4 smooth black tails waving around, just sighed with a smile. She's Sayuri-sama for you, dear. Anyway. Naruto turned back to Gaara, ignoring the burning and screaming Shukaku rolling around behind them. Gaara, meet Shukaku. She's the tailed beast sealed inside you. And no, she's not your mother. Gaara stared at the tanuki behind Naruto. Is she going to be alright? May, that was nothing. She'll be fine. She's not my mother, Gaara repeated what Naruto told him in disdain, and received a nod of confirmation from the blonde. What do you lead me here for? Gaara scowled. All his life was a lie. His mother turned out to be a bloodthirsty monster tanuki whose favorite hobby is to crush people like grapes. His uncle tried to murder him. Everyone around him treated him like a monster. All was because of this beast sealed inside him. Naruto could feel the hostility in his friend's voice, and he, obviously, understood clearly why. He put a hand on Gaara's shoulder, and the boy cringed again. Gaara, I know she had done a lot of bad things to you, and I won't ask you to forgive her about everything right away. But, well, I used to hate my tailed beast too. After all, she was the one who made my life miserable. But after a while, I realized, on purpose or not, she actually had the right to do that. Since the first days the ninja system was established, Shinobi have been using the tailed beasts as weapons for wars. We ripped them of their own free will. We're just the same as them. What would give us the right to judge them? It's needless to say how appalled Gaara was. But she's the one who ruined my life. Finally, he managed to blurt out a protest. She's the one who tempted me to kill all these people. And maybe also because of her, I couldn't even know who my real mother was. No, Gaara-kun, it's not. The two boys' heads snapped back. Standing behind them was a woman. She was not an absolutely stunning person, but her short brown hair, her round face and the sapphire blue eyes full of kindness still gave her a very unique beauty. You're... The woman smiled. It's been a long time, Gaara-kun. My son has grown up into a very handsome young man. There. Gaara mouthed in shock. Yes, Gaara-kun. Kurora gave him another bright smile. I'm so happy to see you too. And Gaara found himself crying his heart out, the first time for many years. Kurora had calmly been listening to everything Gaara told her, about his life, how Yashimaru had tried to kill him, how he had gone, well, a bit crazy and massacred many people after that. Her eyes seemed to darken with each word, but when the boy finished his story, they immediately returned to the usual kind, loving sapphire orbs they used to be. Poor you, my Gaara-kun. She mouthed, stroking her son's red hair sadly. All those years. I shouldn't have left you like that. Mama's sorry. Gaara choked back a sniffle. Naruto raised his voice, I know it's rude, but how did you get in Gaara's head anyway, miss? Kurora giggled. I feel so young when you call me that. You can call me Kurora. What is your name? Naruto scratched his head embarrassingly. Sorry, my name is Naruto. So, Kurora-san. What to say? Kurora pondered. To be honest, I don't know either. When Gaara-kun was born, I just lay there, waiting for death to claim me. At that time, My only thoughts were about my son, about how he would live without his mother, and I wished I could have a way to stay with him. And the next thing I knew, I was in an empty place, there was nothing around me, only a blank, pure white. But somehow, I knew my son was near. So I just kept waiting and waiting, until suddenly I appeared here, in this desert. And met you too, she finished with a smile. Huh? Naruto blinked. Is that even possible? You know, considering what we have been through, I don't think there is anything which can be considered impossible to us anymore. Who was that? Gaara asked, startled. Naruto just chuckled. Don't worry, that's just a friend. You sure have many friends, huh? Gaara said dryly. Naruto could feel jealousy and sadness laced in each word the redhead said. He leaned over and grabbed the boy's hand. Gaara, friendship doesn't come in one day or two. Do you really think that every friend of mine just came to me one day and offered to be my friend? No, Gaara, to have everyone recognize me, I had to work, with everything I got, for them to acknowledge me first. But I'm a Jinchuriki. Gaara turned his head away miserably. I killed people. Everyone fears me. No one will ever acknowledge me. Then he felt a slap on the back of his head. Idiot. Did you forget that you're looking at a Jinchuriki like yourself? You won't know until you try. If I can do it, you also can. It's never too late to change. Naruto-kun is right, dear, Kurora added in. What's in the past isn't important, what matters is whether you want to make amends for it or not. Do your best, use your power for good things, and most importantly, take responsibility for what you have done. Soon, people will forgive you, and become your friend, I'm sure of it. Besides, Naruto continued cheerfully, I have told you many times, haven't I? You already had one friend, me. And you can start by being friend with her. He waved his hand towards Shukaku, who was scowling behind the fence seal, just like I did with mine. Both Gaara and Shukaku stared at Naruto as if he had grown another head. Being friend with him/her? No way. Naruto snickered. See, you two are already getting quite close. Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast looked at each other, then turned away with a huff each. Kurora giggled. You two are so cute, just like a tsundere couple in love. While Shukaku was sputtering indignantly, Gaara just tilted his head. What's a tsundere? Kurora giggled again. Oh, dear, a tsundere is. I'll kill you, woman. Oh, don't be like that, Shuki-chan. Giggled again. I would love to have you as my daughter-in-law in the future. The final straw. Shukaku lunged at the woman in anger and embarrassment with full intention of crushing her to a pulp. And once again, shocked violently by the magical bounded field which separated her from the three people. But Gaara, that's not the only reason I'm here, Naruto said, ignoring the twitching and smoking tanuki behind the fence. The truth is, I'm also here to warn you two about something. Something dangerous, which might even destroy the world. Gaara looked at Naruto questioningly. The blonde closed his eyes and sighed. Now, where to start? So you mean? Gaara asked, and Naruto could tell he was trying to keep any trace of skepticism out of his voice. An organization named Akatsuki is attacking Jinchuriki everywhere to collect the tailed beasts. They are also incredibly strong, no normal ninja is a match to them. And they're trying to use the tailed beasts to recreate something called the Ten Tails, to destroy the world. Naruto nodded, there was no trace of a smile on his face. Yes. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life, Gaara deadpanned. Believe it or not, it's the complete truth, Gaara, Naruto answered grimly. But if that really was their plan after all, how would you know about it? Gaara looked at him suspiciously. Naruto fidgeted, how should he tell his friend about this? Well, actually, they had already tried to get me once. About a month before the Chunin exam started. Even with my beast's help, I was nearly captured by the two agents they sent. Heck, I would have been if the old man, Pervy Sage and Kakashi-sensei hadn't come in time. And based on what they told me, and what I knew from my beast, well, that's what we deduced out of them. That's not a complete lie, either. Itachi and Kisame had really come for him before the Chunin exam. Just let them go at me, and I will crush them like the bugs they are. Ha 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 ha. Shukaku bragged loudly, but Naruto shook his head. No. You still don't understand. If you keep acting like that, they will massacre you. They're not people we can face alone. Unless we work together, Beast and Jinchuriki, there is no way we can defeat them. That's why I told you, Gaara and Shukaku, to become friends. We need you, Shukaku, just like you need us. Ha. You're too full of yourself, brat. Shukaku snorted. Why do you think I would work with you humans? Who do you think I am? I'm the great Shukaku, daughter of the Sage of Six Paths. I don't need puny humans like you to tell me what I should do. Ugh. I already knew Shukaku was hard-headed, but this is just ridiculous. Naruto thought in annoyance and despair. If Shukaku didn't cooperate, things would just be like that time. Gaara would be captured, and Shukaku would be extracted, again. I understand, Naruto. I believe you. Naruto blinked. What did Gaara just say? I trust you, Naruto, Gaara repeated, looking into his eyes. And I will try my best to become friends with her. It might take a long time, but as you said, it's never easy, right? I will work with everything I got for her to acknowledge me. Believe it. Naruto was stunned for 5 seconds. At the 6th, he lunged forward and engulfed his friend with another bone-crushing hug. Thank you, Gaara. He muttered. I just cannot stand it if another friend of mine dies again. Truthfully, Gaara wasn't very well known for his social skills, even as an adult. So it's no surprise the only thing he could do right now was awkwardly patting his friend on the back. The boys separated, and Naruto said, I think it's time for me to go. Naruto, can I ask you one last thing? Gaara called after his back. Yes? How many tails do you have? Those words might be weird to other people, but Naruto understood. He looked at Gaara, a strange twinkle sparked in his eyes. Technically, at least 9. With these mysterious words, the blonde boy faded away from Gaara's mindscape. Sakura, you awake? Sakura smiled painfully at the spiky blonde boy who was peeking through the entrance of the room. Of course I am, Baka. How can I answer you if I'm not awake? Naruto pushed the door open, beaming. That's great. Then it means I can. Oh. Sorry. His smile faltered when he saw Sakura's mother sitting in a chair near her daughter's bed. Konoha actually isn't split into people who like Naruto and people who want to outright kill him. There are still people who know about his status as a Jinchuriki, and sure, they hate him for the beast sealed inside him, but not to the point they want to murder him for it. They're smart enough to know that killing him would just unleash the beast onto the village again, and they cannot take responsibility if that happens. Instead, they choose to ignore him, sometimes send him to tasted glares. They don't want to harm Naruto, but the word demon is still occasionally used to address the boy. And Mebuki Haruno was one of those people. As an ex-Chunin of Konohagakure, of course she knew what a Jinchuriki was. But just like Hiruka Umino, most of her family was killed during the Kyuubi's attack 12 years ago. Her old mother and father, and her beloved little sister. That's why despite knowing that the boy wasn't responsible for what happened at all, she still couldn't refrain from hating him, because looking at him reminded her of the attack, of her deceased relatives. That, after all, was a fatal flaw of humankind. When something bad happens, they need to find something to blame for it. Even when that bad thing happens to be something they caused themselves. Oh, don't mind me, the Haruno woman said, with a hint of disdain in her voice. I was going to leave anyway. Then she stood up from her seat and walked out of the room, but not before giving the blonde a glare. The door slammed shut behind the two children. Don't mind my mom, Sakura said in a low voice. She's usually not a bad person. She just doesn't like you because of... You know. Naruto didn't answer. He understood that more clearly than anyone else. It's not like he hadn't seen that look on the woman's eyes before. It's alright, Sakura. In the end, he just waved her off. But Naruto. Just forget it, okay? He said strongly. I'm here to visit you, not for you to feel sad about things like that. Then he changed the topic. Anyway, you're the one you have to worry about rather than me. What did you think, facing them with your body like that? You might die. Says the one who used his body to block a Chidori for Zabuza, Sakura retorted. Ouch, touché. It seems the better she becomes, the sharper her mouth is. Hey, which side are you on? But it's kinda true, Sakura continued, looking away. Yeah, maybe the reason I did that was because I was jealous. Naruto's eyes bugged out. You're jealous? Of me? Yeah. Sakura closed her eyes. During the time we were in the academy, I'd always thought of myself to be better than you, that you're just a goofy idiot who couldn't bother to learn anything useful. And then, we were assigned into Team 7, and suddenly I became the most useless person of the team. I was scared. It's understandable that Sasuke-kun surpassed me in everything, but even you. Naruto was shocked. He didn't think Sakura could think of him like that. A hint of anger and sadness bubbled up inside him. He opened his mouth. No, Naruto, the voice of Kokuo suddenly rose. Let her finish first. Trust me. I just. Sakura inhaled sharply, and continued. I really hate being useless. I was jealous of you, but at the same time. I know people hate you because of the QB inside you, yet you never thought of giving up, and now you have become strong. Meanwhile I, the one known as Kunoichi of the year, couldn't do anything except sitting outside and doing useless things. Since when I don't know, I had started to admire you, because you had succeeded what I couldn't do. And I thought, if I could become a little bit like you. Naruto felt as if someone had just hit him in the head with a hammer. What surprised him wasn't that she had admitted he was strong, it was that she admitted he was strong without even mentioning his heritage, or Kurama, or anything like that. She had admitted his strength as Naruto Uzumaki, not as the son of the fourth Hokage, or as the Jinchuriki of the most powerful tailed beast. Sakura opened her eyes, only to see Naruto gaping at her like a fish out of water. And she did something she'd never thought she would ever do in her life, she stuttered. What? Did you? Hate me now? Please. To her surprise, Naruto answered with the biggest grin she'd ever seen. Are you kidding? How can I hate you when you say it like that? Sakura let out a sigh of relief. The two children then shared a happy, hearty laughter, as if all the fighting, all the war had never happened. So that means if I ask you for a date now, you won't hit me anymore? Don't push your luck, baka. Suddenly, the sound of urgent footsteps rose from outside the room. What's with all the commotion? Naruto stared at the door, annoyed. And these following words made Naruto's spine froze as if he had just been dumped into an ice pit. Sir. This is an emergency. Patient Karen Uzumaki had committed suicide in her room. And Naruto literally disappeared from Sakura's view in a cloud of dust coming from nowhere. No. How could this happen? The corridor seemed to fly backward as Naruto ran. He had rammed into a few people on his way, earning him a lot of yelling to the face, but he didn't care a bit. The only thing he knew by now was that Karen, his fellow Uzumaki, his relative, his sister, was going to die. The door to her room wasn't locked, he kicked it open. From the ceiling, a rope made from a hospital bedsheet was hanging down. It's obvious that she had been trying to hang herself. Ah, Uzumaki-san, a nurse greeted him when she saw him entering the room. Unlike what people might think, most of the hospital staff is actually nice to Naruto. Maybe because they are people who work in healthcare service. Or just maybe because they cannot stand looking at a boy getting beaten up almost every day without doing anything to help. After all, they are doctors and nurses, and that is their professional ethics. How is Karen-chan? Is she alright? Naruto asked worriedly while trying to look across the nurse's shoulder. She is alright, for now, another voice answered him from his left. He turned, and saw the head doctor of the medical corp, Dr. Ishida, walking towards him. Naruto had known her for a while. She had always been his caretaker whenever he was sent to the hospital. She's incredibly lucky. Had Haruka-san arrived at her room 2 minutes later, there wouldn't have been any way for her to survive. But there was something in her voice which Naruto found unsettling. What do you mean but? Is there anything wrong with her? The doctor looked behind nervously for a while. Then she turned back to Naruto. Can we talk about this in my office, Naruto-kun? So what's wrong with her, Ishida-sensei? Naruto asked. He was now facing Dr. Ishida in her office. The doctor sighed. Naruto-kun. This is supposed to be a high-ranked secret, but I think as her family member, you have the right to know about it. Do you know that Karen-chan was a subordinate of Orochimaru? Yes, I know. Pervy Sage told me about that. Naruto cut her short. The doctor seemed to be taken aback a bit, not only because he knew the secret, but also because of the name. I see, she said after recovering herself. But do you know that Orochimaru sent his underlings here to eliminate her after she lost her match in the preliminary? Naruto's head felt numb. So, the Otta ninja Sakura fought were. That's true, Naruto-kun, Dr. Ishida nodded grimly. And I'm afraid that left a deep scar on her mind. No one would take it well when the person she trusted the most suddenly decided to betray her like that. Especially after she had given everything she got for his sake. I know. Naruto growled out. An emotion he had sworn to never let appearing in his mind, hatred, was now bubbling up again inside him. He had known so well what hatred would lead to, having gone through his whole childhood with and suffered so much from it. But how in the world could he not hate Orochimaru by now? That is why I'm telling you this, Naruto-kun, the doctor continued. Psychological damages are the hardest injuries a human can get. But as her family, I think you will have a better chance than us doctors. Even if she was in cohort with Orochimaru, she was just a victim of that snake after all. I really don't want to see her suffer like that. Naruto cracked a smile. It was an odd, strange sort of smile, but that was the best he got right now. Yeah, alright. Of course I'll try my best. She's my family, my sister, after all. Believe it. Karen stared outside of the window with empty, emotionless eyes. Life had ended for her, so why hadn't they let her die already? Why bothered saving her? Being an orphan, Karen was a girl who craved nothing more than attention from others. But except for Orochimaru-sama, no one had ever paid any respect to her. They didn't even care about her heritage as a member of the Uzumaki clan. To them, she's just a weak, ugly nerd who had always been bitching around. But now, even Orochimaru-sama had abandoned her. What other purpose did she have in her life? Karen-chan. Hey, Karen-chan. And this blonde boy, Naruto, as she remembered, just continued annoying her to no end. Karen-chan. I'm sorry to hear about what happened to you. She heard him mumbling. I understand that it hurts, but... That was the last straw. No, you don't, she snapped. Suddenly her voice was loud and strong. You don't understand anything. How can you understand anything, with that goofy smile always in your face? How can you understand, while all around you are people who adore you and spoil you like a little prince? Her expression was turning wilder and wilder. All of my life, no one has ever treated me with any respect. No matter how hard I tried, I was never more than a joke to everyone around me. I have trained myself a lot, pushed myself to the limit many times, but for what? I was still only a useless Shinon. Can you even imagine that? Always the useless one, always laughed at by other people? So she's basically an attention whore, huh? Goku noted, a little bit miffed. Only Orochimaru-sama noticed me for who I am, she continued with a teary smile. He took me in, trained me as a kunoichi, and what's more, he taught me what it meant to be a member of the Uzumaki clan, about how great they were at Fuinjutsu, about their incredible chakra and life force, about how useful I was going to be in the future. But now even he has abandoned me. Rage exploded in Naruto's stomach like a blazing flame. Karen was the same as Naruto. She had lived a lonely life without her parents, just like him in the past, and it was understandable she desperately craved for attention like that. And the bastard Orochimaru had taken advantage of it. Naruto reached out his hand, and delivered a slap to Karen's face. Wah! You idiot, Naruto yelled at Karen's surprised face. He knew it's not right to scream at a girl like that, but he needed to do it. Why the hell did you think that getting Orochimaru's attention would do anything good for you? You had been with him, didn't you see what would happen to people he cared about? He experiments on them, turns them into monsters. My friend Sasuke would have been one of them if we hadn't fought Orochimaru away in the Forest of Death. Karen was really taken aback by Naruto's sudden outburst. So what? She retorted in a sputter. At least he's still. Karen-chan, Orochimaru had just backstabbed you, can't you see? Isn't that enough proof to show how evil he is? He is the type of person who will not hesitate in throwing other people away as long as it is for his benefit. And you still think that he really cares about you? He just did that for a chance of getting your body someday, a body holding the bloodline of the Uzumaki. Naruto hadn't meant to say those words so boldly, the words had just jumped out of his mouth in his rage, but they seemed to be very effective. Karen cringed up, and tears started welling up in her eyes. Naruto inhaled deeply, and said in a gentler, friendlier tone. Karen-chan, I used to be like you too. My parents both died during the Kyuubi attack on Konoha, you know, and I have been living as an orphan since I was born. I have also sought for attention from other people for a while, by messing up the village with pranks of all kinds. But even with that, no one would notice me, they just saw me as a delinquent who couldn't do anything but bad things to others. Then I realized. He closed his eyes and sighed. That what mattered was not how much you do, but rather what you do if you wanted people to realize you. Think about other people, do good things to them, and they will start paying attention to you. And allying yourself with Orochimaru definitely cannot be considered good. Karen didn't answer him. She just looked away and started sobbing. And Naruto understood. You don't just want attention, you want love. Love of having a family, don't you? A loud sob confirmed him. Hearing that made his heart hurt more than it had ever been before. He reached out his arms and gave Karen a hug. The girl melted into his arms without any resistance, and before anyone could know she had been crying her heart out into his shirt. The two siblings just sat like that for a while, not saying anything, but everyone knew they didn't need to. Just being in each other's arms was more than enough for them right now. You seem to be very good at making people cry today, huh? And of course, Goku just had to ruin the mood as always. Oh, be quiet. Wood style, 4-pillar house jutsu. Thanks to the help of the Hokages, The reconstruction of Konohagakure was going smoother than expected. House after house burst from the ground like trees, replacing the ones destroyed during the assault, gaining cheers from the watching crowd. DCH. From afar, Tobirama Senju clicked his tongue in annoyance. Ever the show-off, my brother. Sarutobi followed his predecessor's eyes and let out a deep sigh. No human is flawless, Hokage or not. Even the first Hokage was not perfect, he's usually a humble man. But sometimes his personality could be a little bit weird. And if someone like the mighty Hashirama Senju couldn't claim to be perfect, how could he have the right to do so, either? Unlike other shinobi who possessed powerful bloodlines or special abilities from their birth, Hiruzen was just a normal person having advanced through his whole career by nothing but his skills. Sure, he could utilize the elements perfectly, and some people praised him as the most powerful Hokage of Konoha for that, but in sheer power alone, he knew there was no way he could compare to the other legendary shinobi like Hashirama, Tobirama, or even the new ones like the Raikage. And he wasn't proud of what he had done either. As the Hokage, he had failed many people in his life. The Uchiha clan had been massacred. Naruto had to suffer his life without love and respect. And now, this invasion. Konoha had triumphed thanks to his plan, but risking the lives of some people he had used as baits was definitely not something he liked to do. And somehow, something in his mind still whispered to him that had he been more decisive and assaulted Otogakure before the invasion happened, things would have been better. You are too soft. You don't care about the village's fate if something like this happens. You're not worthy of the name Hokage. The voice inside his head scolded him. Shut up. I just don't want another war to happen. He retorted. Konoha has been through enough wars already. Doing that to Konoha residents is already beyond the line. Is it really? The voice continued in a mocking tone. You, of all people, should know that shinobi are tools for war. Without wars, there is no shinobi. You are going to destroy Konoha if you continue thinking like that. Shut up. Zoning out in the middle of the day, Saru? That isn't like you at all. Hiruzen blinked. Hashirama had been standing in front of him since when he didn't know, smiling broadly. Sensei, he bowed. No, it's nothing. It's just. I've been thinking about something. Not something important though, don't worry. I see, the first Hokage nodded. But now I have a question for you. During the invasion, you left many people in the stadium on purpose. Why did you do that? The old Sarutobi cringed slightly. He had expected this question to be asked, sooner or later. But he had prepared the answer for it. Because that was the only thing I could do, he said, refusing to look away from the other two Hokages. Tobirama's eyebrows scrunched. So to you, it's fine throwing away the lives of Konoha citizens for your plans to work? Killing intent leaked out from the two Hokages, aiming at the old man. But Hiruzen simply refused to budge. I never said that, sensei, the third Hokage said, calmly meeting the glare of his two predecessors. It pains me that I had to put my citizens in danger, but if I didn't do that, Orochimaru would notice there was something wrong, and who knows what might happen after that. I hate to say it, but I am really getting old. Had it not been for the help of Jiraiya and the Mizukage, I would have been killed when Orochimaru summoned you two, in full power like this. What if he decided to summon you before he entered the village? And after that, with your powers, he would have destroyed not only the citizens in the stadium, but the whole village as well. I cannot let him do that. The old man inhaled deeply. You can kill me now if you want. I have prepared to face my retribution for that, but I have no regret for what I've done. As long as I can protect Konoha and all of her citizens, I will gladly give up my life for it. The three men continued glaring at each other for a while. Then suddenly, Hashirama let out a hearty chuckle. You have really become a great Hokage, little Saru. Hiruzen blinked. Wait, aren't you mad at me? Why should we? This time, it's Tobirama who chuckled. What you said was completely true, we cannot expect to save everyone. There is no such thing as a war without casualty. Being able to protect this many people in a war is not something everyone can do. Of course you should be proud of it, not feel ashamed. I don't like it very much, but as ninja, it is understandable that we always have to be a bit pragmatic in our actions. Hashirama shook his head. We Konoha shinobi would avoid killing as much as possible, but after all, we're still soldiers. If an enemy shows up with intent to kill, we must do everything in our power to take them down, or... He trailed off, and Hiruzen understood why. He was one of the rare people who knew about the last fight of the first Hokage and the reason why he died. He had been backstabbed by the one who he had still thought of as his best friend, Madara Uchiha, even after the latter had betrayed him and summoned the Kyuubi on the village. And yet, when he had had the chance to finish him, he had hesitated, and decided that there might still be a chance that Madara redeemed himself. And just look at what his naivety had done to him. So, do you know what happened to Saikyo? And Kurama, too? Hashirama suddenly asked. Then he smiled sheepishly. Oh, of course you don't even know who they are. A few months ago, that question should have been unintelligible to Hiruzen, but now, it wasn't. They're in the care of a wonderful person, he nodded with a smile. Someone who treats them as equal, as friends, as family. I can say for sure you don't have to worry about them anymore. Hashirama seemed to be taken aback seeing that Hiruzen knew the names, but then, a sad smile climbed up the first Hokage's face. That's good. Poor Saikyo. I couldn't even say I was sorry. Hopefully she will be happy with the one she is with now. And Kurama. I'm glad she's not under the hand of someone like Madara anymore. She has suffered enough for her life already. The three Hokages gazed at the horizon, where the sun was sinking down. I think this is when we have to say goodbye, Tobirama said. The dead shouldn't be staying in the living land for so long. Alright, Hashirama nodded. But before we go, with a very quick movement, he reached out his hand and grabbed Sarutobi's head. The old man cried out in surprise, but curiously, he didn't feel anything. No pain, no shock, nothing. In fact, it was completely opposite. He felt stronger, and somehow, younger. Consider that a present for me, Hashirama grinned, retracting his hand. I have used my power to restore your life force. Basically, you're now like when you were at your 40s or so. But why? The old man, well, not so old now, could only sputter those words. Because I still believe that you have to be punished abusing villagers like that, answered the first Hokage with a cheeky grin. And I think 30 more years doing paperwork will suffice. Enjoy your fate, monkey. Then with a few hand signs, he started glowing white, signal of a reincarnated soul ready to depart back to the Pure Land, while still laughing like mad. Tobirama also did the same, but he turned back to Hiruzen when he started glowing. Hiruzen, that time when I chose you as the third Hokage, I'd got a feeling that I wouldn't have to regret about my decision. And now, looking at what you've done for Konohagakure, I can proudly say that I didn't make any mistake. Keep doing your best as a Hokage, and protect Konoha with all you have. Yeah, Hashirama added. And if you meet Saikyo again, tell her not to worry about that last battle, okay? And Kurama, tell her that I'm sorry for not being able to do anything more to help her than releasing her from Madara. If I hadn't hesitated, I could have done more, but I will tell them, Hiruzen said with a grin. After all, they're a part of my family now. Hashirama smiled and nodded his satisfaction. The bodies of the two ex-Hokages shone brightly, then collapsed into two dead corpses and a pile of dust and ash. Right when they touched the ground, the two bodies burst into two similar trees right in the middle of the rooftop they had been standing on just a moment ago. Right at that time, Naruto poked his head out of the door. "Aw, they're already gone?" He pouted. Man, Saikyo-chan was just so eager to see old man Hashirama. Then he noticed the other man on the rooftop. "Eh? Is that you, Jigi? How could you be so young?" The Hokage chuckled. He grabbed Naruto's shoulder and said with a grin. "Well Naruto, how about I explain after having a bowl of ramen? I'm starving here." History of Konohagakure, and the whole shinobi world, was going to turn to a completely new page. Omake, why Kurama hated Minato so much. Kurama, I've been wondering. The red vixen blinked. What's wrong? How can you be a girl? I was pretty sure you had a very manly voice before when we met. Creepy silence ensues. Then, Naruto was blasted off his feet by an incredible shockwave of chakra. Minato Namikaze, I'm gonna fucking murder you, death be damned. I will find a way to pull you out from death's stomach and kill you again. I will destroy your precious Konoha, and everything. Ack. Release me you guys. Release me. Like how we'll do that. Jinki growled out while pinning Kurama down on the floor together with Goku and Isobu, preventing the vixen from crushing Konoha again. What happened to her? Naruto sweat dropped. Well, yang is also the symbol of masculinity, you know. Try to connect the dots. Kokuo shook his head awkwardly. Naruto connected the dots, and felt something died within him. His dad, cool and peace-loving as he is, could be downright cruel sometimes. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.